Welcome back to the FPL deadline stream, this time out of Gameweek 27. We've got over 2 hours left until the deadline, and if we hit our super chat goal, this will go on for even longer than usual. And thank you to all the super chatters, super thankers, subscribers, likers, and commenters. You're massively appreciated. We hit 32,000 subscribers very recently, and our next aim will be 33,000 step by step as we build towards new goals in this calendar year. And I'll delve straight into your FPL questions, so drop a like if you enjoy this content or find it insightful. My best wildcard team breaks down that definitive wildcard squad, of course, the transfer tips for those that are looking to make free transfers and navigate blank Gameweek 29, double Gameweek 32 and beyond, and my team selection, where some of you might be in a similar position to me. I have made one free transfer, which I did discuss in yesterday's team selection. Matheus Cunha has come back into my FPL team, replacing the injured Ndai, and that means Semenyo drops to first on the bench. You know what that means. Some FPL points are probably incoming for Antoine Semenyo, but I'll talk more about that and the captaincy, which isn't fully locked in for me yet. Salah is currently, on the captaincy. He's got the armband, but Cole Palmer is still very tempting, especially as a differential. He doesn't have the form, and that could actually go in Palmer captainer's favour because a lot of people will be put off by the lack of form Chelsea are showing, and Palmer himself has been very disappointing in recent weeks. But let's get straight into your comments, see what you lot are thinking. So Easy99 says, sell Rodgers to buy Enzo to balance more money in the bank. I would not be buying Enzo. I know he scored in that fixture against Aston Villa to open the scoring, but I would not be buying him. If you're looking for a budget midfielder, I'd still look at Kluivert, Semenyo, Dango Ouattara, although I'm a bit more concerned now about the latter, with Evanilson returning to the Bournemouth squad this weekend. Wanyeri as an 8th attacker is also sound. I'd rather go for him than Enzo Fernandez, to be honest. Yeah, it's just, I don't think Enzo would be near the top of my agenda. He did play in a more advanced position against Aston Villa, to be fair, and he's got a good record at Villa Park, but I would not be buying him in FPL. Keep Hurstler as Assman for the final week. There is the possibility of table bonus against Bournemouth there, so it's not the worst one in the world. My favourite managers this week would be Ange Postecoglou and Oliver Glasner. Start Sells or Sarr this week. A slight preference for Sells. Hey Dylan, currently I've used my one free transfer to sell Rodgers to Bowen and starting Joao Pedro, so should I take the risk for a -4 to sell Ndai to Cunha and bench Joao Pedro? I'm not against that. And I think long-term the hit pays off, so I think that's a really sound move. But Joao Pedro did very well the last time he played against Bournemouth, and Danny Welbeck is out, which has been confirmed by Hurstler. So I think in this case, I'd probably just stick with Joao Pedro in your starting 11, but he's such a difficult one to predict. When you recommend starting him, he ends up flopping, and people look to sell and bench him, and then when they do that, he ends up hauling. I think Joao Pedro is simply an FPL troll. Matheus Cunha is levels above in FPL, but this week, I think instead of taking a -4 here, I just stick with Joao Pedro for now. FPL Kevy says, hey Dylan mate, do I play Trossard and Gabriel or Wood and Milenkovic? Arsenal fan in me is saying one thing, head telling me just play Forest players. Yeah, I'd lean towards Chris Wood and Milenkovic and just go all in on Nottingham Forest. I'd be very happy to be proven wrong, even if it means, kind of a detriment or a red arrow in FPL, for example, but yeah, I'm going to say Chris Wood and Milenkovic. I've gone for 2-0 Forest, which I'll also remind people in my predictions later on. Cylindra says, I'm not free hitting in Gameweek 29, so maybe want to take this -4. Plus, currently have Isak, Hall, Salah, Trent, plus Greaves. Yeah, I think context is very important, so fair enough. If you're already leaning towards taking a hit for Cunha, I don't think it's a bad move, like I mentioned, but I just think Joao Pedro can kind of match Cunha, if not maybe outscore him. I do think Cunha is the better asset even this week, but for a -4 hit, that's what kind of levels the playing field. So it looks like you've got your mind decided already. Easy99 says, got 90 points in my FPL challenge team. And hopefully the chat doesn't bug out. Once again, the famous Google Chrome. If you tune in on Saturday night, you'll know what I'm on about. But yeah, let's get the rest of this message. More than my original FPL team. Yeah, that's happened a lot to me in recent weeks. Not in game week 27 though, or 26. Hi Dylan, did Ndai and Dan go to Cunha and Bowen for a -4 last week? Got the exact, or last night, got the exact money to do that. Do you think it's worth it? Yeah, I think it is worth it. Now, for some people, I mean, even in your case, selling Dango, who I think could still do fairly well this week, taking a hit for Bowen, for example, then benching a Chris Wood or Isak, I'm not on board with that sort of thing. As good as Bowen looks this week, I think West Ham can be disappointing against teams they're expected to beat, and their record against Leicester isn't particularly great, but I would back them to win this one, and I think Jarrod Bowen is right up there with the best captains. The same goes for Matheus Cunha, who was highlighted in my heat map section in my best wildcard team, and also the reaction stream on Saturday night. I'll go into that fairly soon as well. So yeah, great transfers. You're not going to find me complaining. Sam says, thinking about taking out Gakpo for Marmoush or a defender. Maybe roll. My team is Alisson, Greaves, Williams, Timber, Kirkes, Robinson, Palmer, Salah, Mbumo, Wanyeri, Kluivert, Isak, Gakpo and Cunha. That's a very solid squad, to be fair, and I get the temptation for those Gakpo owners to hold him now for the next 2 home games against Newcastle and Southampton. I think he'll deliver maybe a double-digit haul actually in one of those home games, depending on where he starts. But do I expect him to start both? Not necessarily. And you've also got the blank in Gameweek 29, so your front line is still very solid, but I would recommend Gakpo to one of Mateta or Chris Wood. I think in your case, you might be able to keep Gakpo until Gameweek 29 and kind of hope for the best. If he doesn't start against Newcastle, you keep him for that Southampton fixture, and that should return or translate into some very good returns for you. Start Hall or Colwill. I'd go for Colwill this week. One of the only times I'd ever say that. Lewis Hall can still get an assist and maybe a bonus point or something like that, although that's quite unlikely in my opinion, but he's got that attacking potential, a bit like Robinson, which makes him desirable in most game weeks. But against Liverpool away, I just start Colwill. Welcome, Raul. Happy Human says Rodgers and Gakpo to Bowen and Cunha for -4. I'd say yes, but once again, with the Gakpo thing, I get the temptation to keep him for the next 2 home games and then sell in Gameweek 29. And also, what does this hit mean in terms of who do you bench as a result of buying Cunha and Bowen? Depending on what the answer to that question is, that would probably determine it, but without the context, I would say it's a great set of moves and I would do it. Captaining Salah, yeah, I hope we get more variance and maybe more, I don't know, more choice in the coming seasons, because obviously we had Erling Haaland in the last couple of seasons, Mohamed Salah this time round, where it seems foolish to go against them for the captaincy. Even those that went for Mbumo did very well on Friday, 14 points, and guess what? You can't even better the template Salah captaincy because he does the exact same thing. Clean sheet, goal, assist, maximum bonus points, so it's difficult to beat him. Start Isak or Joao Pedro, says Raul. I'd still go for Isak, by the way. I know I'm very confident of a Liverpool win. I've gone for 3-1 for the Reds, but Isak has a great record against them. He scored and assisted in the reverse fixture this season in that 3-3 thriller, and also in the last campaign, he scored at Anfield. He's got a very good record against Liverpool, and Isak is the type of player I never like benching. Taylor Rudkin says number 1, roll transfer and start one of Wood or Rodgers. Number 2, Bowen to Rodgers, or I'm guessing Bowen in for Rodgers for a -4, and bench Wood. If roll, we'll take a -4 and 29 to do Bowen in for Rodgers instead. I will just start Chris Wood this week. I think it's already bad enough to bench him, despite facing Arsenal, who are still a good side. I just think Nottingham Forest, this is the ideal time to play Arsenal, and they've got a great chance of winning. Their Premier League record against the Gunners is quite poor. I think they've lost 7 of the last 8 matches in this competition, but I am fancying them for a win tomorrow night. And to take a hit to then bench Chris Wood, I think that's really risky considering his ownership, but more importantly, the bonus points potential he has. The same would go for Matheus Cunha as well. So my answer would be roll the transfer and start Chris Wood. Baraf says Yodelan bought in Neto now. Who to bench? Cliver, Mbumo, Isak, Wood or Cunha? Anyone? I'm captaining Palmer. I'll be honest, this might sound ridiculous, but out of those players you mentioned, I'd bench Pedro Neto. That's the way I'd look at it. I don't like benching any of those players. If you still want to start Pedro Neto, you bought him in for a reason after all, and I had to pick one, it's probably going to be Cliver, but yeah, I just think Pedro Neto is the worst FPL asset, despite having the next 2 home games against Southampton and Leicester. Raul says, better take the -4 now and get Bowen versus Leicester. Yeah, once again, it does depend on circumstances, but I do like the appeal of Bowen. It's not going to work for me personally, because it would have to be Cliver, who I just bought in last week, out for Bowen for a hit, and I'd still bench Semenyo, and when I kind of weigh it up and think of it logically, I don't think it makes much sense from my perspective, but for other people, it might be a worthwhile hit. Steve G says, would you start Mikalenko or Hall? Mikalenko. I think both teams will concede, but Everton have a better chance against Brentford compared to Hall against the best team in the league. Already have Pickford and double Brentford attack. I get it, yeah. And Lewis Hall has the attacking threat, so it's a difficult one, but I'd still stick with Mikalenko to be fair. Who are you captaining today, Dylan? It's not locked in, as I mentioned earlier, but it's currently on Salah, which you can see on screen, and Palmer's the vice, but I might just go for Palmer to go against the template and gain a bit of rank if it goes well, but more often than not this season, we have seen Salah come out on top. Tahir says, hi Dylan, bring in Cunha for Watkins or Roll? I'd bring him in. Orksan says, hi Dylan, predictions about Wolves vs Fulham. Well, nice segue. An excuse to show my different graphics which I've made, and if you saw my wildcard video, you would have seen it already, but yeah, no changes from that podcast, which was uploaded yesterday. It was a double upload, in fact. So I've gone for Brighton 2, Bournemouth 2, Crystal Palace 3, Aston Villa 2, Wolves 2, Fulham 1, and I think Vitor Pereira would be an underrated consideration for the assistant manager this week. I would not be activating the chip now. This is only for those that have it active already from previous weeks, and that's where I think Ange Postecoglou, Vitor Pereira, and possibly Hersa would be the most appealing managers who can get table bonus. The other two who are also eligible, but I wouldn't recommend, are Juric away to Chelsea and also Eddie Howe away to Liverpool. So those are the 5 managers who can get table bonus, which, as you've seen with Oliver Glasner last week, can be very powerful. And this chip is, I'd say it's recommended to use it in a double game week or when you've got back-to-back doubles, and game week 32 would be one such opportunity. I've already played it, of course, on Arne slot. I played it quite safe and conservative. Got a decent return from it, but in the end, I think the table bonus is the way you want to go about it. It can obviously be high risk, high reward, and you need a lot of luck to go your way. But if it does swing in your favor, it would be a massive boost to your FPL rank. So those are all my predictions. Chelsea 3, Southampton 1, Brentford 1, Everton 1, Manchester United 2, Ipswich Town 1, Nottingham Forest 2, Arsenal 0, Tottenham Hotspur 1, Man City 0, Liverpool 3, Newcastle 1, and then West Ham 2, Leicester 0. Also, feel free to put your predictions in the live chat. I'd be very interested to see your thoughts. And let me go through some different graphics before going back to your questions. So, in terms of team weaknesses, with Fulham, they are conceding a lot of chances in these half spaces, particularly on the left-hand side and going into the penalty area. And guess who loves to thrive in such areas? None other than the most transferred player for Game Week 27, Matheus Cunha, the man on the thumbnail, and he got 16 points at Craven Cottage against Fulham earlier this season. So the blue circles indicate the chances that Fulham have conceded all season, and the heat map, which is just tucked underneath, is Matheus Cunha's shot volume in this season. And as you can see, it pretty much perfectly aligns with Fulham's weaknesses. No wonder he got 16 points early in the campaign, and I think he's a great transfer, not just for Game Week 27, but also for blank Game Week 29 when Wolves face Southampton away. So I can't recommend Cunha highly enough. I'm not saying he's guaranteed to return, but I think he's got a great chance this week, and that's why he ranks very highly in my top 10 captains, which I'll show you very shortly. But before I do, the clean sheet and over 2 goals odds can be seen on screen. Chelsea are top, facing Southampton at home, of course. A 43% chance of keeping a clean sheet. And by the way, those odds are taken from fantasyfootballpundit.com. And I've also used that for my UCL fantasy video showing the clean sheet odds and goal scorer probabilities. As for the over 2 goals, that is taken from DraftHound, and Chelsea reportedly have a 60% chance of scoring more than 2 goals. Liverpool are second, Man City, United, West Ham and Brentford complete the top 6. This is ranked in order of chance of scoring over 2 goals according to DraftHound, and I've also put the clean sheet odds as well. As for bottom of the table Southampton, they are also bottom of this list, a 7% chance of keeping a clean sheet and an 8% chance of scoring over 2 goals against Chelsea. But now the captaincy, this will be very interesting for a lot of you. You might be looking to go for Palmer over Mohamed Salah, or go very rogue and differential with a Jarrod Bowen, Matheus Cunha, perhaps even Bruno Fernandes. This is my definitive list right now. There are maybe a few areas you could suggest a change in, and I have gone for Heung-min Son in 10th, which does seem quite strange. He hasn't had a great season, but he's got a good record against Man City, and he played very well against Ipswich Town, creating 2 big chances, and both of them being converted by Brennan Johnson. Chris Wood is 9th, despite facing arguably the best defence in the league in Arsenal. They've been very shaky in recent weeks, and I think Forest are going to play them at a perfect time, and Chris Wood just needs 1 goal to get maximum bonus points. Trent Alexander-Arnold is 8th, and I have gone for a 3-1 in my prediction, but Trent has 1 goal, 6 assists, and also 7 wins against Newcastle with no defeats and 3 draws, a few clean sheets as well along the way over his many years at Liverpool. So I think Trent is an underrated captaincy option in Game Week 27. Mbeumo is 7th, but I don't think Everton is the most appealing fixture considering their form. They have been a resurgent side, under David Moyes. Jean-Philippe Mateta is 6th. He got an assist against Aston Villa in a 2-2 draw at Villa Park. But last season, the last time they played at Selhurst Park, Mateta scored a hat-trick against Aston Villa. So I think he can do very well in such a fixture. And I did go for a 3-2 Crystal Palace win, which will be perfect for Oliver Glasner owners. Bruno Fernandes is 5th and maybe should be a bit lower because United are so inconsistent, but Fernandes is a bonus points machine. Jarrod Bowen is 4th. West Ham can be very frustrating though against the weaker teams in the country, and I remember back in Gameweek 14, so we're talking about December here, Van Nistelrooy's first game, and West Ham battered Leicester, but guess what? Leicester got the victory, and Jeroboam was robbed of several assists actually, and that was very frustrating for those that invested in him back in the day. In third place, I've gone for Matheus Cunha, who is highlighted in the heat map section, and then in the top two, I've gone for Palmer and Salah, kind of standard stuff there, and I think Salah is still top dog, but I think it's kind of a simple one here. If you want to go for the kind of conservative pick and really just preserve where you are, I think Mohamed Salah is the one to go for, and Cole Palmer would be the one to take a punt, so to speak. He is highly owned still, but because of the lack of form him and Chelsea have, I think a lot of people will be put off going for Palmer in the first place, which makes him quite appealing from that sort of perspective. Let's go back to my FPL team, and shortly I'll show you the FDR and other graphics and stuff using websites like Fantasy Football Hub. But let's get back into your questions. Drop a like if you enjoyed the content or find it insightful as always, and thank you to those that have done so already. Nathaniel says, I'm still surprised how so many people are not selling Robinson. Fulham is struggling. They scored goals recently and don't know how to keep clean sheets as well. Yeah, struggling to score goals. Yeah, I mean, the thing is with Robinson, he can always salvage something through an assist, and his last return, unfortunately, was when he was on my bench against Newcastle. But yeah, I mean, I think people will gravitate towards selling Robinson, but there's also a lack of standout options to replace him. I think that also plays a huge part, because look at Gabriel, for example, still one of the best defenders in FPL, but Arsenal aren't being that solid, especially at home, keeping the clean sheets. Trent, I think, is still kind of a standout, but he blanks in 29. Munoz is right now the best FPL defender, but he also blanks in Gameweek 29. He'll be coming in very soon for me, though. If not in Gameweek 28, I'll be looking at Gameweek 30, but I've actually got a decent foundation for blank Gameweek 29, so I don't need to free hit. And in such a scenario, I think it's probably best for me to avoid Daniel Munoz and most Crystal Palace and Newcastle assets until Gameweek 30. But you make a good point, and ultimately Robinson remains template, but I think he will be sold by quite a lot of people in the coming weeks as well. Can you suggest an Aina replacement? I still think Aina's worth keeping. I know he hasn't been delivering in recent weeks, and he was terrible against Newcastle on Sunday. But yeah, I think Munoz would be the standout, especially if you are free hitting in 29 or you're not really bothered about just benching Munoz in such a game week. Otherwise, you'd probably be looking at someone like 8 Nuri, specifically for Game Week 29, and Wolves are top of the fixture difficulty rating, and we might as well use that as a segue and go to Fantasy Football Hub. So yeah, as you can see here, Wolves are also top of the FDR until Game Week 32. Chelsea, Bournemouth, Brighton and Man City complete the top 5. Crystal Palace narrowly behind them. As for the bottom 5, you've got Aston Villa, Fulham, Everton, Leicester and Brentford. Let's not forget that in Game Week 32, Newcastle and Crystal Palace both double, yet they're 6th and 8th. 6th and 8th in this table respectively until Game Week 32. With predicted points, Palmer is still top, but he's actually gone down. He used to be 8.5 for the predicted points. He's now gone down to 8.2, I see. Salah is narrowly behind. Nkunku is third. That's very high up, and maybe if you want a low-owned differential with 2 appealing home fixtures against the 2 worst teams in the league, Nkunku could be worth a punt, but I'm not really feeling Chelsea assets, especially beyond Game Week 28, but in the short term, I think Nkunku is probably worth an investment and, worth a go. Heung-min Son and Mbeumo complete the top 5, and Isak, Fernandez, Cunha, Mateta, and Foden finish the top 10. With managers from game weeks 27 to 29, a free game week period, Ange Postecoglou is top. The North London rivals Arsenal and Arteta are second here with 21 expected points. Guardiola is third. Then you've got Maresca and Graham Potter, but I mean, you have to say, a lot of these algorithms were very bullish on Arteta last week. He got 0 points in the end, so sometimes you just need the rub of the green, and also, yeah, the table bonus are so important. So I think if it's kind of me personally ranking the managers this week, and I'll show you what they're saying for Game Week 27 only, they have gone for Glasner top. I think that's a good suggestion. Pereira, Maresca, Postecoglou, and Slot is their top 5. I'd also put, well, Postecoglou for me might even be top. Glasner maybe second. That's definitely debatable. Vitor Pereira third. That's the way I would rank it personally, but let me know your thoughts in the live chat. To kind of complete the bottom 5, you could say, for the next 3 game weeks with these managers, you can see as we scroll down, you've got Amrim there, close to the top 5. You've got Glasner again, but let's see the names at the bottom. David Moyes is always, you know, near the bottom, and he's always one of the best managers, it seems. But Eddie Howe is last. I think that's spot on, to be honest. Emery, Juric, Van Nistelrooy, and Nuno Espirito Santo. That is the bottom 5 for the next 3 game weeks overall. So, did I do that correctly? I think that's just the next 2. Oh, they're only showing... Well, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, either way, obviously... Okay, I see what's happened there. With these managers who blank in 29, yeah, it's not fully updated in the graphics here, but yeah, that's just something I noticed now. Let's go to price changes according to live fpl.net. So this surely is out of date. Let me refresh this again. So yeah, Matheus Cunha, Marmoush, Asensio, Matoma, and Jarrod Bowen are all projected to rise tonight. And yes, Jarrod Bowen went up in price tonight actually, but it looks like he could get another one. As for projected price fallers, we've got a lot of them as usual. Roman Esse, Foden, Aina, Gordon, Rogers, Fabian Schär, Murphy, Diblin, McAteer, Martinelli. Oh my god, the list continues. Luis Diaz, Lisandro Martinez, Madueke, Dawson, Calvert-Lewin, Isak, Raul Jimenez, Rico Lewis, Kai Havertz, Pedro Porro, Somari, Grealish, Lavia, and Cheek Decore. Let's also compare the stats of the 2 best captaincy options, in my opinion, for Gameweek 27, and Salah pretty much trumps Palmer in every single stat possible, but Palmer isn't too shabby. I mean, there is 2 actually where Palmer wins. Big chance created, Palmer has 20 according to Fantasy Football Hub and their stats, and 68 key passes, but in terms of goal scoring, there's no contest, and Salah has a great record against Newcastle, 10 goals and 7 assists against them in 16 appearances. He has also never lost against the Tomb, but Cole Palmer is still a great shout, and this is a case of fixtures versus form. Salah's got a bit of both, but mainly the form, of course, and Cole Palmer has the best fixture on paper. But there is also this question of effective ownership. Do we just go for the jugular and be aggressive and go against Salah? Because there are certain weeks where you can go against him. I even mentioned last week as one possibility. Those that went for Mbeumo, of course, did very well, but ultimately Salah matched it, and it's very difficult to go against him at the moment. Let's also do a sneak preview of FPL.team, or using FPL.team to visualize Gameweek 28. So after I made that transfer of Matheus Cunha in for Ndai, I've got 1.7 million in the bank, and my team could look something like this, where it's pretty much identical. I'd look to bench Semenyo once again, maybe even Kluivert in such a scenario, but I think rolling could look feasible in Gameweek 28, and then I use my free transfers to optimize my Gameweek 29 squad, and this of course needs a bit of ironing up because I would be 0.5 million over budget, but yeah, I think I could easily get to an 11, which is fairly decent. I think using the free hit might not be optimal for my setup, but that's not going to be the case for everybody watching, so that's something I need to weigh up still. Without making any transfers from now until Gameweek 29, I could still have a reasonable 11. I think Colwill away to Arsenal doesn't look great, but maybe with Arsenal's attacking woes, that isn't too bad. I could also put Semenyo here for Isak or Salah, doesn't really matter. And Veltman might be back by then, but he's facing Man City, so I'd like to get rid of him, to be fair. So I've got a full 11 already for Gameweek 29, but 2 of those players are quite hideous in Veltman and Colwill, but the rest is fairly decent, especially my front line. That's pretty much what I would free hit to. Chris Wood and Cunha are 2 of the best options there for blank Gameweek 29, but I'll talk more about this in future team selection videos and podcasts. Of course, the main focus right here is 27, but sometimes with your transfer plans, you have to look ahead to such blanks and doubles to have the full picture and be very satisfied with your transfer plans. Last but not least, FPL Challenge. This is my current squad. No changes from what I kind of showed you very briefly in my team selection video yesterday. I've got Sells in goal, but that could well change. A back three of Trent, Wan-Bissaka and Daniel Munoz, with Salah, Palmer, Bowen and Fernandes, Cunha and Mateta up front, and Ange Postecoglou as my assistant manager. Otherwise, I might go to Oliver Glasner there, but the captain in FPL Challenge for me is Cole Palmer, and I'll probably do that. So if I end up captaining Palmer in FPL, which is unlikely but still possible, I would then captain Salah in FPL Challenge. That's probably the way I'll go about it, but yeah, Palmer for me is very close to Salah this week, despite the Egyptian being so good this season. Let's now go back to my FPL team and also to your questions. I'm fairly locked in. The only thing that could change, like I said, is going to be the captaincy. Drop a like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. We do have a decent number watching. Let's get the likes up to 200 plus by the end of the stream. And stay tuned for the early streams of March, because by that stage I can gift memberships to people watching and you can get early access to my videos amongst many other perks. Dylan, any takeaways from Liverpool press conference? Gakpo? Well, Gakpo came on as a substitute towards the end of the Man City game, and I would back him to start one of the next two matches against Newcastle or Southampton. Now, a lot of the press conferences that happened just now, I haven't been able to have a good look at, but I will be doing that during the stream, and I can give you conclusive answers. But with Gakpo, I've been saying this for time. I'd just rather sell him and go to the likes of Cunha, Chris Wood, Isak, and Mateta. I think those four are the best forwards in FPL right now, and ultimately two of them blank in 29, but they do serve you well for double Gameweek 32 instead. I'm feeling cold this week. Good luck, Hind. All the best there. Start Marmoush or Kluivert? That's a tough one, but I'd lean towards Kluivert. Carlos Melara, says, I have Fabianski and Sanchez, best keeper to replace either, 2 free transfers. You just need one, right? And I think one of Sells, Pickford or Raya would be the best options. I think that's the way I'd rank it as well. So Sells is my favourite from now until the end of the season. The only downside is that the next 2 home games aren't great on paper against Arsenal and Man City, and there is a possibility Forest blanking Gameweek 34, but yeah, it's going to be one of Sells or Pickford for me. I'd buy one of those two in for Robert Sanchez and keep things simple. Aina 28 Nuri, but a -4, would you do it? No. Nathaniel says, should I start Mazraoui over Howson or not? I probably would, but I don't think either United or Brighton keep a clean sheet. I've gone for 2-2 in the Bournemouth game and 2-1 Man United, but yeah, you kind of just chance it on United's higher probabilities of keeping a clean sheet and hope for the best there. Hey Dylan, bench Wood or Dango? I would bench Dango or Ouattara. I have 5 free transfers, have no idea what to do. Neither do I, because I don't know your team, but this could even be a case where if you're really happy with your team, you could even just change your backup goalkeeper from Valdimarson to Areola, for example, but ultimately you want to use your transfer sensibly and really improve your team for the long term. So if you are able to put your team in, I can maybe have a look and we can discuss it in more detail. Dylan, when is the next best time to use every chip? So this is the problem because, for example, if you've got every single chip available, I would say the best time to bench boost is 33. But having said that, the best time to use the assistant manager is Gameweek 32, and you can't do both of them at the same time. So I'm just going to kind of break it down chip by chip, but some of them will overlap, like the ones I just mentioned. So the assistant manager, Gameweek 32 would be my favorite. You could even argue 31, but it really doesn't matter. As long as you can really cover double Gameweek 32 and maybe 33, that could work very well for you. The bench boost, I think 33 looks very promising. Otherwise, 36 is the one after. But you did ask the next best time. Yeah, when next is the best time. So Gameweek 33 for the bench boost. Triple captain. So assuming you bench boost in 33, I would say in Gameweek 36. Otherwise, if you don't use the assistant manager in 32, I don't mind triple captaining Isak with his double there. I'd also be looking at the free hits. Gameweek 29 for some people will make a lot of sense, but otherwise you're looking at maybe Gameweek 34 or 33, but that is obviously team dependent. But obviously you asked the next best time for each chip. So just to kind of put it simply, free hit 29, assistant manager 32, bench boost 33, triple captain I'd say 36 considering the other ones as well. So hopefully that does answer your question in a decent way. With the wild card, I'd probably just look to use it between Gameweek 30 and 34, depending on how you order your other chips, and I wouldn't be able to tell you that because you've also got other circumstances. You might be looking to navigate blank Gameweek 29 without the free hit, for example, and that could impact your chip strategy. Joao Pedro or Delap? This week, I'd lean towards Joao Pedro, but he's such a troll. We know that. Yes, Arona, you asked that already, mate. I wouldn't do it. It's up to you. Who to bench out of Kirkes, Mikalenko, and Milenkovic? I think this week I'd lean towards benching Mikalenko. Callum Jr. says, evening Dylan, moved up to 8th. Thinking about doing Mosquera to Munoz as it won't affect my Gameweek 29 team. Yeah, that looks pretty sound. I'm not a big fan of Munoz this week, by the way. I think Villa will score a goal or two, but Munoz looks really appealing for Gameweek 28, 30, and double Gameweek 32. Who would you bench out of Gabriel and Kirkes? Difficult. I think both Gabriel and Kirkes will blank. But since you've got Chris Wood in the 11, I understand why you might be tempted to start Kirkes instead. Yeah, I think I'd still go for Gabriel just about, but that's because I don't have much faith in Bournemouth keeping a clean sheet at the Amex. Dylan Nam at 2.8 million. I'm happy after starting late. Yeah, if you started late and you're in the top few millions, I think that's fairly decent to be fair. I mean, trust me, missing an entire gimmick is bad enough, and if you missed a few, that is very difficult to kind of overcome. Adnan says Gakpo to Cunha and Mitoma to Bowen, or just bench Gakpo and do Mitoma to Bowen. I would just do Gakpo to Cunha and keep it simple. I think Mitoma is still fairly decent, and I don't see a big difference between him and Bowen ultimately. So yeah, Cunha is the bigger upgrade. I would recommend him. Thank you, Mitra. So the super chat says, get one of Cunha, Marmoush, bench one. So yeah, look, Marmoush is a punt. He's a differential. He could be very useful in Gameweek 29, but I think Cunha is undoubtedly the best one. And I said this in my Gameweek 26 Transits podcast last week. I think it was 8 days ago, actually. As for your benching dilemma, it's going to have to be Semenyo, in my opinion. He has never scored or assisted against Brighton. He's first on my bench, though, so if he does do something, I apologise in advance, but from those three, I'd look to bench Semenyo. Bench one, Schade, Kluivert, as people love to tell me. I'll speak Dutch from now on. Or Mitoma. Difficult. Very difficult. I'd lean towards benching Schade here. Rodgers to Bowen or play Enzo. I'd buy Bowen in this case, yeah. Thoughts on Joao Pedro long term? He's still a sell for me. Yeah. He only played against Southampton and he will play against Bournemouth because Danny Welbeck's injured. Yeah, I'd get rid of him personally. Can he do well this week? Of course he can. And I believe he got a big return against Bournemouth last time out, but I think there are better forwards elsewhere. Even better, for example. Malbert says, I really don't understand people captaining Palmer. Salah's only blanked once at home this season, and he is the second highest score. Oh, sorry, his second highest score this season was against Newcastle. Yeah, great points, but also bear in mind that some people want to go different because they aren't happy with their rank or they just want to be aggressive. And I think Cole Palmer is a nice opportunity. And ultimately, the winner of FPL won't always kind of do what the rest of the crowd are doing. Although in this case, I do get it. Salah's been that good that he almost speaks for himself as the best captaincy option. So even number one in the world might have captained him every single week and gone differential in other areas with their transfers or their budget picks, for example. So yeah, FPL and football is a game of opinions, and ultimately there are different ways of playing it. I just hope next season we get more variance with the captaincy. We did get that kind of promise towards the beginning of this season, but it was quickly short-lived. Thunder11 says Watkins to Cunha and bench Joao Pedro, or Joao Pedro to Cunha and bench Dango. Oof, that's a difficult one. I don't know what your strategy is for Gameweek 29, but if you are looking to navigate that without the free hit, my advice would be Watkins to Cunha. Hey Dylan, start Robinson or Munoz. This week, I know it sounds crazy, but I would lean towards Robinson. There's not much in it though, and I do think Cunha can still haul big. Of course, that might be to Robinson's detriment, but at the same time, could both of them haul in the same game? Yeah, Robinson can still get assists. Start Pickford or Flecken. Last two gameweeks I got it wrong, but it's hard to see Brentford keeping 3 clean sheets in a row. Yeah, Everton are in form as well, to be fair. But I have looked at their head-to-head, actually, and it is very interesting. There have been a lot of low-scoring games between Everton and Brentford. In fact, the reverse fixture was 0-0, and I benched both Mikalenko and Van den Berg that week, so well done, Dylan. That's very well played. That's a very difficult one for me to say. I think, generally speaking, I'd recommend starting Pickford. But Brentford have the home advantage. And they have some quality attackers there, like Mbuma and Vissa, who can really punish Everton. But I'd still lean towards Pickford. That might be the wrong thing to do. And if you've got Mbuma or Vissa starting in your team already, I wouldn't really blame you if you just want to go all in on Brentford in that perspective. So it really depends on your setup. But in isolation, without thinking too much about which players you have already, I think Pickford is still slightly better. So if I actually kind of list some of the results between these two teams in recent matches. So the last one was 0-0, like I mentioned. Last season at Goodison Park, it was 1-0 Everton. Everton also won 3-1 at the G-Tech Community Stadium last time out. Then a 1-0 win for Everton. Then a 1-1 draw and a 3-2 Brentford win. So yeah, Everton are actually unbeaten against Brentford in the last 5 meetings. I mean, look, these things can come to an end. I mean, for Gameweek 26, Crystal Palace didn't beat Fulham since 2020. So football is full of surprises. Things change. yada, yada, yada. But yeah, I'd still go for Pickford, I think. Did you triple captain? Back in Game Week 2 on Erling Haaland. It was pretty good at the time, 17 points, hat-trick in a single game week. But, of course, those that went for Salah in recent weeks have kind of decimated that quite comfortably. Eze to Bowen. Yeah, good transfer. I like it. Start Mazraoui or Castagna. I think both concede, but I lean towards Mazraoui here. Not by much, but that'd be my preference. Alfred says pick one, Rodgers to Bowen or Gakpo to Cunha. Yeah, both of them are substantial upgrades. Gakpo's a funny one because if he were to start the next 2 home games, I think he looks really promising. But I can't help but think Cunha's my favourite move. I'm going to stick with that one. Eze to Neto, not really feeling it. If you want a Chelsea secondary attacker, I think Nkuku's probably the preference. Pedro Neto's goal record is atrocious. He's a decent player, very good dribbler, but I think he's got like 14, 15 goals in his Premier League career. Gabriel has more, for example, as a centre-back. He's more of an assister, I get that, but look, it's really the next 2 fixtures, I get it. You want a short-term punt. Southampton and Leicester are that bad that Pedro Neto could score in one of those games and get a few assists, I get it, but I'd rather go for Nkuku. Would you sell Rodgers? I can't afford Bowen and have Kluivert. Well, it depends who you can buy to replace Rodgers, but if you've got a decent starting 11, you've got Chris Wood, Cunha, Isak, 4 solid midfielders like Palmer, Mbeumo, Kluivert and Salah, you don't need to sell Rodgers just yet. But yeah, it really depends on that kind of factor. Do you need to, and in this case, do you need to start Rodgers? In that case, I would look to sell him if possible. I like the Bournemouth midfielders still. I think Semenyo over Dango might be better going forwards. Wanyeri as an 8th attacker is sound. But ultimately, if you can't go to Bowen or Kudus, who might be a nice punt for you, in Nkuku, I'd maybe leave it on Rodgers for now, but on your bench if possible. I'm not sure if he actually plays tomorrow. Hi Dylan, I have an attack, Wood, Vissa and Isak. Should I go this week Wood to Cunha or wait? No free hit in 29. Probably not. I think it's probably best for you to save your transfers and navigate blank Game Week 29 in the best possible way, where you'd want to keep Chris Wood and in fact add Matheus Cunha to your ranks. It might be for Alexander Isak temporarily, then you reverse the transfer in Game Week 30, or decide. I think the best way for you to approach this actually is to keep what you have for now, and I would buy Matheus Cunha in for Isak, maybe in Game Week 29, and then in Game Week 30, sell Vissa to Alexander Isak. If you can make that work, that is the ideal scenario. Batman says, unless Salah gets injured or the league is already wrapped up, do you see yourself not captaining Salah in every week, excluding blanks? Well, like I said, I am considering the Palmer captaincy now simply because I want to chase rank and, you know, really push up and go a bit different. But that could also go the other way, right? Where it falls flat on its ass and it makes me go down substantially. But yeah, I've said this for many months now. I will captain Salah most likely until the wheels fall off. That's what I said, either for Liverpool or for Salah himself. Would you bring in Bowen for Rodgers for a -4? Can't do it in 1. In isolation, I'd say yes, I would do it for a -4 hit, but if you've got a decent player like Chris Wood in your starting 11 and buying Bowen means you'd bench him, I don't think it's worth a hit in that sort of scenario. But if you're not happy with your replacement for Rodgers in the 11, then yeah, the -4 hit looks pretty decent, to be fair. Is Iwobi a good player? Yeah, I'm not sure what the word is there at the end, but I wouldn't recommend Iwobi. He has been one of the highest scoring midfielders in FPL, but I wouldn't be looking to buy him right now. No, I think there are better options elsewhere. I heard some rumours about a potential blank Game Week 37 because of the FA Cup final. Is it true? Yeah, but the teams that reach the FA Cup final and their respective opponents could still have their game take place in Game Week 37, I believe. But yeah, I mean, look, there is always going to be these permutations based on the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. There are more doubles and blanks than we expected at the beginning of the season. But yeah, I'll talk more about this when things are confirmed in the coming weeks and months. Bench Kluivert or Wanyeri? I'd bench Wanyeri. I'd start Kluivert for sure. Christian says Pedro to Cunha or keep Pedro and bench him for Semenyo or play him, have Ouattara as well. Yeah, Joao Pedro can do very well this week, but I still like Cunha for the long term, so my preference would be to buy Matheus Cunha there. Had a terrible last game week by picking McKenna. How confident are you in captaining Salah versus Palmer? Well, captaining Salah is always quite an easy one. I'm always confident going for him. I think the doubt would come if I go against him, even with someone as good as Palmer, because Chelsea have been off it since December. Palmer himself has been very inconsistent with the goals and the assists recently, and his teammates aren't finishing the chances that Palmer creates, while Salah is virtually getting a goal or assist in every single Premier League match, and he's got a great record against Newcastle, and I'm expecting that to be a high-scoring affair. So, yeah, I'm confident about captaining Salah. If I were to go against him, that's purely just to go up the ranks and hope for the best there, and hope that maybe Salah has an off day. Who's a good replacement for Rodgers? I still like Bournemouth mids, like Cliver. You've also got Wanyeri as an 8th attacker. I've always been quite keen on that until Martinelli and Saka come back. If you've got the money, I think Bowen is ideal. I really think so, but that's not going to be the case for everybody watching. So maybe Kudus or Nkuku might be a decent punt for the next couple of weeks, especially Nkuku, I think, with Chelsea's fixtures. Hi, Dylan, captaincy this week. Well, yeah, that's been covered quite a lot, so you kind of know my thoughts on that, and I'll probably show the graphics one more time later in the stream. Start one between Kirkes, Robinson or Hall. I'd lean towards Robinson. Would you bench boost for Arnold, Wood, Robinson or Waite? If Waite, is that Trent or Gay this week? I'd start Trent for sure, if that's your question. That is a good bench, but who's in your starting 11? That's also very important, because if you got like a Rodgers in your 11, I'm not so sure. But yeah, on paper, that's a very good bench boost. Hassan says bench one of Isak, Wood or Wanyeri. Wanyeri. Felix says, who should I bench from Dango, Semenyo, Beto, Vissa, Pedro, or better to transfer for a Chelsea mid or Bowen? Yeah, from those players, I would bench I think a Bournemouth midfielder. At the moment, I'd lean towards benching Semenyo, and that could turn out disastrous. It has for me many times this season. Better to transfer a Chelsea mid or Bowen? I mean, yeah, but how would that work? Do you sell Semenyo? Yeah, that's an interesting one, but I'd look to bench him right now. Serona says pick 2. Reluctantly, it has to be Isak, but he's got a great record against Liverpool. I don't like benching players like Isak. The same goes for Palmer and Salah. It's something I try to avoid whenever possible. Bowen or Cliver? Bowen this week. Bench Cliver or Wanyeri? Wanyeri on the bench. Best game week to activate my system manager? Game week 32, but remember, it will be active for 3 game weeks, and that means if you want to bench boost in 33, that would be no longer possible because your system manager would still be active going into that double. Ansari says, hello Dylan, hope you're doing well. Start 3 from Van Heck. Let me just get your question up again. Robinson, Kirkes, Gabriel, Mikalenko. Also start 2 from Wanyeri, Wood, Isak. Yeah, so from those defenders, I would start Robinson. I'd still go for Gabriel here. And the third one would be Milos Kirkes. But that's a very close call between him and Mikalenko. With the attackers, I would bench Wanyeri and start Chris Wood and Alexander Isak. Zetlin says bench Cunha, Cliver or Vissa. Have Mbumo to cover Brentford. Yeah, I would not be benching Cunha this week. No chance. I think from those 3, it has to be Vissa on the bench, I think. It's between him and Cliver. I'd lean towards Cliver right now. Having Mbumo to cover Brentford, yeah, I think that also plays a decent part in that decision I just gave. Welcome the dog. That's cringe, yeah, as they say, the way I said it. Hi, how have you been, Dylan? Enzo Fernandez, cheap punt. He played well against Aston Villa, played in a more advanced position, but I wouldn't. Nah, I wouldn't be recommending him, to be honest. When he had that purple patch, and I said this back then, I was never really keen on him, and I thought it would come to an end fairly soon. And Chelsea have been so inconsistent. Look, the next 2 fixtures are brilliant. I get why people want to go for Enzo Fernandez, Pedro Neto, and Nkuku. My favourite from those 3 would be Christopher Nkuku. Is it worth doing Vissa to Cunha? I think so. But as I mentioned last week, you could make the case of keeping Vissa for now and making the switch in 29 or 30, but yeah, I think Cunha's an upgrade, to be fair. Start 2, Mateta, Wood, Munoz, Semenyo. I'd start Mateta and Chris Wood, yeah. Antoine says start Trossard, Rodgers, Gakpo or Hall. I'd chance it on Gakpo, but it is risky. There is a chance he doesn't start at all. Charles John says, hi, Isak out, Marmushin. It's a no from me. I think with Isak, I get why people want to sell him and then bring him back for Gameweek 30, but my advice would be to have him for the next 2 games, as bad as the Liverpool fixture is, and sell him in 29 and bring him back in 30. That is my preference. Is Dango starting left back? No, not left back. Answering your question, I'm not free hitting in 29. Already have Cliver. Should I do Watkins or Joao Pedro Acuna? And if Joao Pedro Acuna, bench Dango. If Watkins Acuna, I bench Joao Pedro. So yeah, not free hitting in 29. I mean, Joao Pedro plays Man City away in Gameweek 29. And ultimately, I think he's sellable. So in the coming weeks, I think both Watkins and Joao Pedro should be sold. I think this week I'd sell Watkins to Cunha. And yeah, you can sell Joao Pedro to Chris Wood, for example, in Gameweek 29. I think that might be the best way to approach it. Would you bench Rodgers or Gordon? Well, there is a chance Rodgers doesn't even play at all. I mean, the kind of worst case scenario for Rodgers owners, especially those that start him, is if he is on the bench and makes a cameo, which is, I wouldn't rule it out, by the way, this week. Before that kind of Emery update from earlier, I would have said Rodgers over Gordon. Now I'm a bit less sure. Gordon did okay last season against Liverpool, away from home, but yeah, I think I'd bench Rodgers. Yesterday, bench 1, Palmer, Salah, Mbumo, Cliver, Dango, Isak, Cunha, Vissa. You should never include Salah in a benching dilemma. I mean, you're probably just providing context of your team, I get it. I think from those players, I'd bench Dango reluctantly. It's between him and Vissa to bench, I think. What do you think? Is Bowen essential? No, he's owned by like 3% of the game. He's done very well since his return from injury, but he is far from essential. You've got a good midfield, but if possible, I'd look to replace one of Rodgers or Iwobi to Jared Bowen. I mean, that'd be an upgrade in my opinion, but it's not essential. Dango or Cliver? Cliver. Topi says bench 1, Vissa, Isak, Dango, Semenyo, Mbumo. Once again, I'd probably lean towards benching Dango. It's between him and Vissa for me. I haven't triple captained yet. When do you suggest? Gameweek 32 on Isak. He's got a double gameweek there. But remember, if you want to use the assistant manager, around that time frame, you won't be able to use both chips at the same time. Gameweek 33, if you're not bench boosting there or assistant managing, then you could go for a double gameweek player. We don't know exactly how the fixtures will land yet for double gameweek 33, but that will be another opportunity. The same goes for gameweek 36. And in terms of single gameweeks, Mohamed Salah in gameweek 28 against Southampton is almost assured to get a big return, but football can be a funny game. Cliver or Dango? Once again, I'll say Cliver. Mohamed says, I have Rodgers but can't move to Bowen. I need a player who is not blanking in 29 and has a double in 33, so I can only use one transfer. I have Cliver. Well, we don't know exactly which teams will double in 33. We could have a good idea maybe, but ultimately with football, you can never know for sure. So, based on your permutations, let's see. And by the way, I can't stress this enough, the Gameweek 33 double will not be confirmed, and I might end up being wrong about this, but yeah, so to replace Rodgers, someone who doesn't blank in 29 and also doubles in 33, I think Mitoma could be a possible option for you, but I say possible because it's not locked in. I think Cliver is a decent shout. Even a second Bournemouth mid, although I'm less keen on that right now. Yeah, then you're looking at Wanyeri, possibly if Arsenal double in 33. Man City, so you're looking at Foden, perhaps. But ultimately, from the players I mentioned, I think Mitoma or Cliver would be your best options, who are also quite accessible at a similar price tag. So, yeah, Cliver would be the one if you don't have him already. Keep or sell Dango? I'd keep him for now, but I can see him being a sell fairly soon. I'm not sure exactly when that will be, but once Evanilson gets back into that 11, there is the possibility that he drops out. Bench 1, Neto, Wanyeri, Kluivert. Yeah, Wanyeri on the bench. Emmanuel says, I have Palmer and Salah in the midfield. Need 2. Who do you suggest? Well, it depends on your strategy and how you're looking to navigate the upcoming weeks, but as mentioned in my wildcard video, Mbumo is a solid certain forget option. Cliver is template, but also on penalties and very consistent for his price tag. So I think those two are fairly sound, but if you want to go differential, Jared Bowen is probably a decent punt. Thanks for answering. Yeah, in Gameweek 29, I do my third striker to Wood. I kind of want Watkins for the Brentford game. Yeah, based against former club, they're weak defensively. I can see that. But ultimately, you got to make a sacrifice, I think, somewhere down the line. Yeah, Rodgers' replacement, just covered that. And ultimately, I don't know which midfielders you've got already. Start Semenyo or Wanyeri. I'd lean towards Semenyo. If you can't afford Bowen, who would you swap Rodgers to? I like Cliver and Mitoma, but there is also possibly Kudus or Nkuku. So it depends on how long you want this player. So in the short term, if you want a real big punt for the next 2 game weeks, I think you'd probably look at Nkuku. Mbeumo or Cliver? Probably Mbeumo. And this also goes for the long term as well. But Brentford have pretty poor fixtures around Game Week 30. Yeah, as mentioned before, Anis, the best week to assistant manager is Game Week 32. You've got the double for Palace and Newcastle there, and also another double game week in 33. So that's the best time to use it. So either Game Week 31 or 32. But remember, if you do that, you won't be able to bench boost or triple captain in Game Week 33 because the chip is active for 3 game weeks. Ahmed says, hi Dylan, hope you are good. I have a question. Should I sell Ahmad and Rodgers with a -4 or sell and keep 1? Well, Ahmad is probably out for the rest of the season, so if possible, I'd look to sell him. Rodgers could be out for tomorrow, but maybe he's back for Game Week 28. And obviously, he blanks in 29, so I think he is sellable as well. But do you need to take a hit to sell both? Not necessarily. However, if, let's say, for example, you sell Ahmad and you have to start Rodgers there still, in that case, I'd be inclined to take a -4 hit. So if you've got a decent defender, midfielder or forward to come in for Rodgers, I'd stick with a normal transfer, sell Ahmad now, and stick with Rodgers out in 28 or 29. Bench one of Cliver or Wood for Enzo. I wouldn't recommend it, but probably Cliver. Greaves to 8-Nuri or Dorgu. 8-Nuri for me. I think Dorgu might be an interesting punt for United defenders, but I just don't trust him enough. Who's the best goalkeeper? Would you sell Alisson? I'd keep Alisson for now. You can always make this move in 29, and I think sells would be a great purchase from that point onwards, but you don't need to sell Alisson just yet. Better starting Aina, who plays home, or Gabriel? Well, if Arsenal were in good shape, I'd be backing Arsenal to win the game, and I'd say Gabriel all day long, but considering form and my prediction for the game, I'm going to say Aina here. Bench 1, Mitoma, Wood, Semenyo, Cliver. Probably Semenyo. Bench sells or Kepa this game week? I'd bench Kepa. Neto or Nkuku? Nkuku. Celso Jorge says bench Robinson or 8-Nuri? Yeah, good question. I'd lean towards benching 8-Nuri still. Liad says thoughts on Kanate and Rodgers to 8-Nuri and Bowen. Solid transfers. Yeah. 8-Nuri can be a bit of an FPL troll. He has been for me at least for the last 2 seasons, but good moves. Start Isak or Dango? Isak, no need for caps, mate. Antoine says Gakpo to Beto, start Beto and bench Rodgers. Yeah, looks good. With Beto, I mentioned this before, he's a nice punt for the next 3 game weeks, but afterwards Everton have poor fixtures, but he does feature in blank game week 29, which is fairly decent. Bench Wood or Isak for Eze? Reluctantly, I will say Isak, but he's got a good record against Liverpool, which I have mentioned before. He's not in my top 10 captains, but he's not too far off, to be fair, despite the fixture. So let's put this into context, his record against Liverpool. Just for those who aren't aware, just to give you the exact figures. So, in his first ever game against Liverpool, it was away from home, he scored in a 2-1 defeat. He then blanked at home in that same season, the 2022-23 season. Then he blanked in the home game in the 23-24 campaign, but then he scored at Anfield in a 4-2 loss. And obviously this season, he scored and assisted in that 3-3 thriller. So that's 3 goals and 1 assist in 5 games against Liverpool with no wins, but ultimately it's about FPL points, and Isak can still deliver that even when his team lose. Thank you, SA. Hey, mate. Awesome content as usual. Need a quick help, please. Bench 1, Mitoma or Cliver. Lots of love. That's a very difficult one, I have to say. They are facing each other, and could they both haul in the same game? Absolutely. Mitoma showing a degree of consistency, but Cliver has the penalties, so difficult one to say. and this could really go either way, but I would lean towards Matoma at the moment, and that's primarily because of form. I am backing a 2-2 draw though, so it's a very difficult one to kind of predict. I think both of them are worth starting this week. The thing is, Wood faces Gabriel for me, while Wanyeri doesn't face any of my defense. That's why I'm confused on the matter. I get it, but I've also had this sort of thing before. For example, I started Mbeumo and Veltman in the same game, and all these Brentford assets blanked. There was a 0-0 draw, but Veltman came off that game with an 8-pointer. Sometimes starting players from the same game kind of guarantees you, or almost guarantees you, a return. Obviously, that's not always the case, but I just would rather start the better FPL asset, and Chris Wood is someone you don't want to bench. I mean, there are very specific circumstances where I would suggest that, but this season, I think Chris Wood is one of the best assets. Ivan says, just joined the stream. Is it a good idea to hold on Gakpo to the Southampton game and then transfer to Cunha? Yeah, I mean, look, like I said, this is the problem with Gakpo and why I recommended selling him in the last couple of weeks, because it will come to this stage where you look at that Southampton game and think, I want to keep him for that, and it could backfire completely. But yeah, my favourite forwards right now are Cunha, Chris Wood, Mateta and Isak. Two of them blank in 29, while the other two, Wood and Cunha, are excellent in 29, and they've got good long-term fixtures. So if you can buy one of those two, and of course you mentioned Cunha, I'd highly recommend it personally. So that would be my preference there. Aina or Robinson? I'd lean towards Robinson here, but not by much, and that's mainly because of assists. I think both of them, well, I actually think Aina's got a better chance of a clean sheet, to be fair. So it's a very difficult one to answer. All right, let's go through, well, I did go through different screens, to be fair. So yeah, maybe in a little while I'll go back to different graphics and stuff. I'll stick with your questions for now and see if there's anything we haven't covered. Circuit says, hey Dylan, I have 2 free transfers: Pickford, Fabianski, Trent, Gabriel, Munoz, Mikalenko, Kluivert, Rogers, Palmer, Salah, Raul, Isak, Wood. I have bench boost free here and AM. Any thoughts? Yeah, unfortunately with the bench boost and AM, they could maybe conflict with each other, because the best time to use both would be around the same time. Bench boost in 33 and assistant manager in 31, 32, which will then include Gameweek 33 as a result. As for the free hit, that could be Gameweek 29 for you. Looking at your team, you've got Pickford who features Gabriel, Mikalenko, Kluivert, Palmer, Raul, Chris Wood. So you've got 7 players featuring in Gameweek 29. I think in your case, it could be worth free hitting in 29. And then with the other 2 chips, you might have to, well, ultimately you have to decide at some stage. So maybe you bench boost in 36 and then use the assistant manager around Gameweek 32. I think that could be the play for you there. Captain Calfridge says, hi, Pickford, Gabriel, Howson, Robinson, Palmer, Dango, Salah, Ahmad, Diaz, Isak, Wood, Watkins, and Vandenberg on the bench. What should I do? Roll or do something? So yeah, I'm not sure which chips you have left. The players I'd look to offload in the coming weeks would include Amad Diallo, obviously, Luis Diaz, maybe Watkins, especially with the blank in 29. Vandenberg is sellable, despite his cheap price tag. I think the rest are decent. Maybe Dango could be on the chopping block, but I think he's good for now. And the rest are very good picks. So yeah, Amad Diallo should be the kind of preference here. If you've got enough money, I think Amad to Bowen would be great. He also features in blank Gameweek 29, but that might not be the case for you. I would bench David Raya this week, Gordon, based on my prediction, Nottingham Forest 2, Arsenal 0, and I hope I'm wrong. Better starting Aina, who plays home or Gabriel away. That's been covered, thank you very much. Bench Wood or Munoz. I would bench Munoz there, Toby. Enzo or Nkuku? Nkuku. Seved says, thoughts on Rogers to Mbeumo, Watkins to Vissa, and Pedro to Cunha for a -8. If you can afford Mbeumo and Cunha for a hit without selling Watkins to Vissa, that would be my recommendation to you. Weiseng says, sell Mateta or Watkins for Cunha. Gordon to Nkuku, sells a sell? No, I covered this in my transfers video. I think sells is a hold, and he might even be the best goalkeeper from now until the end of the season. So I wouldn't be looking to sell him just yet. He's also got arguably the best Gameweek 29 fixture against Ipswich Town away. I think maybe Wolves are the only ones with a slightly better fixture on paper. I think Mateta is a better option than Watkins until Gameweek 32. So I'd rather keep Mateta and sell Watkins, even though this week it's quite close between them in their head-to-head clash there. So yeah, Watkins to Cunha. Yeah, Gordon to Nkuku as a short-term punt could work fairly well for you. I'm just not a big fan of Nkuku beyond Gameweek 28. Henry Stemmer says, one free transfer, 0.4 million in the bank. Should I roll and play one of Gakpo or Rodgers? And if yes, which one? Well, I don't know your team, so I wouldn't be able to tell you if you should roll or not, but my preference is to sell Gakpo to one of Cunha, Chris Wood, and all these other options. But if you want to keep Gakpo for that Southampton fixture, fair enough, I get it. And from those two players, I'd start Gakpo. There is a chance he doesn't start against Newcastle, but the same goes for Rodgers against Crystal Palace. Do you think Sanchez might get his place back in goal? It's possible, and Maresca has shown a lot of faith in him over the months, and reports indicate in the summer that he's a big fan of him. But yeah, that was a big mistake by Jorgensen against Aston Villa. He should have done better. But Sanchez has been error-prone all season. I wouldn't be recommending Sanchez in general or Jorgensen. I think if you've got Robert Sanchez, you might want to start him, but if you've got no backup, that could be very risky, and ultimately, I think the most likely scenario is you go down to 10 men. So if you can go to one of Sells, Pickford or Raya, that will be the best long-term goalkeeper move. Samuel says, should I sell Trent and keep Hall for the double? Looking to bring in Haaland long-term? Yeah, that's fair, and Hall's been brilliant in FPL this season. It's just a shame he wasn't doing it when I had him, but I'll look to bring him in from Gameweek 30 onwards. So yeah, it's a good strategy. My only issue with that is that you missed Trent for 2 decent home games. Like I mentioned before, he's got a great record against Newcastle, 1 goal, 6 assists. And yeah, Lewis Hall away to Liverpool, I just don't see him doing anything there. So yeah, for the next 2 game weeks, I'd recommend keeping Trent. Don't sell him yet. But in Gameweek 29, that is probably a time where you could make a case for selling Trent. You keep Lewis Hall for double Gameweek 32 and navigate the blanks and doubles that way. Yeah, I don't really mind that wasting. I mean, the thing is with Fabianski, he's not first choice right now. You're kind of just chancing on Areola picking up an injury, which he does do quite often for a goalkeeper. So you could do that, but ultimately I could just see that being auto-subbed for Sells anyway. Hey man, Trossard or Semenyo? Semenyo. AM Vitor Pereira. He's my 3rd favourite, I think, this week, maybe even 2nd for assistant manager. I think Postecoglou, Glasner and Vitor Pereira are the 3 standouts. I think table bonus is so important that if you are using the assistant manager, I'd always go for a table bonus option in a single game week for sure. So yeah, Pereira's up there. I'm backing them to win 2-1. That'd be a decent return for you, to say the least. Bench Rodgers, yeah, if possible, I would recommend that. Should I start Minter? I mean, he has been fairly decent recently. Big return a couple of weeks ago against Chelsea. So it depends who you start him over, but I'm not against it. Should I do Pedro to Cunha or Elanga to Eze? I think Elanga's decent for blank game at 29, so I'd keep Elanga and sell Joao Pedro to Cunha. That could backfire this week because the Brazilian did very well against against Bournemouth earlier this season. But yeah, Cunha for me is a great long-term transfer. Celso says, been out of FPL content this year as an experiment. Just figured out that we can now save multiple week transfers. 400k rank, not too bad though. Yeah, decent rank, and yeah, that is one of the big changes they've done this season where transfers are no longer reset to 0 or to 1 after you wildcard, and you can save up to 5 free transfers, which I was skeptical about at first, but I think it's a good addition to the game. It makes things a bit more interesting. I don't share the same opinion about the assistant manager, but it is here, and hopefully it's maybe moved on next season, but we've all got our own opinions on that. Last week, my manager was Arteta. Yeah, I'd say that's a bit unfortunate because Arsenal were top of the bookmakers' odds and all of these different sites of winning a game, and Arteta was actually the #1 pick according to many of these algorithms like Fantasy Football Hub as well. So that is a bit unlucky. Kieran says start 2 of Mateta, Kluivert and Dango. I would bench Dango. But Danny says, hi Dylan, bench 1 of Kluivert, Mateta or Dango. Yeah, pretty much the same question as Kieran, so that's answered. Wei Seng says Watkins and Gordon/Rodgers to Mbumo and Cunha -4 worth it. Planning to get strong defenders next game week. Yeah, I think so. Now with Mbumo, as I mentioned before, the long-term fixtures aren't great for Brentford, but Mbumo is fixture-proof. FPL is about following your gut and luck. Yeah, all fantasy games are like that. In UCL Fantasy, for example, I typically do better there than FPL, and I think the key difference ultimately is luck, in my opinion. Soldier Boy says, would you do Rodgers to Bowen, Kluivert to Dango, and Ama to Wanyeri for free? I like two of those moves. Rogers to Bowen is a great upgrade. Ahmad to Wanyeri makes sense. Cliver to Dango I'm a bit unsure about. So if you can afford the other two moves without selling Cliver, that would be my recommendation. I think Dango could drop to the bench fairly soon. I'm not saying it will happen this week. I think he'll start, but that could be a problem in blank Gameweek 29. Cliver, Wood, or Bowen, pick two. It would be Cliver on the bench here. Bench Enzo or Chris Wood. I'd still bench Enzo Fernandez, to be fair. One free transfer Vista to Cunha or not? I'd do it, Dylan. Yeah. JDub89 says, hey Dylan, hope all's good. Can't stay as I need to cook, but seen that you were live, so thought I'd drop in to say hi and like the video. Good luck for this game week, mate. Thank you. Enjoy the meal. It should be a good one. And all the best for Game Week 27. Wanyeri or Semenyo? As mentioned before, I would go for Semenyo. Kumar says, bench one between Dango, Cliver, Gakpo, Wood, or should I transfer Cunha for Gakpo? Yeah, I would bring in Cunha for Gakpo if possible. And to bench, it would be Dango. Is your caps thing broken, by the way? Gakpo to Cunha or Rolls to Surrendra? I would buy Cunha. Oystein, great name, says Dango or Minter in for Ahmad? That's a good question. I'm less keen on Dango now than I was 2 or 3 weeks ago. I think that Vanason return has probably really changed my perception on it, and maybe I'm overlooking it or looking into it a little bit too much. I would lean towards Minter right now, actually, but it's really close. They're both good assets. Start Better or Cliver? That's a good one. I'd lean towards Cliver, but really close. So yeah, that's covered. Rogers replacement for 29, 5.5 million and below. Already have Cliver. Well, Dango could still be quite decent for you. Enzo Fernandez in this case, I'm not a big fan, but it does fit the bill. Wanyeri is still a good option, although he's benchable this week. So one of those three, I think, would do the job. Thank you, Soldier Boy. Bench Cliver or Beto. Beto, as mentioned before. Mikolenko or Castagna. I would lean towards Castagna. Mark Golich says, hi, Isak to Cunha, not free hitting in 29, and wildcard Isak back in 30-31. I get it, and Cunha is better than Isak for the next 3 game weeks, undoubtedly. But Isak has a good record against Liverpool, and against West Ham, he could still haul before blanking in 29. So I'm not exactly sure about this. I'd probably say yes, but it's really close. I wouldn't recommend selling Isak or benching him even this week. Should I play Cliver or Matoma? Yeah, I'd maybe go for Matoma, but not by much here. And Cliver is on penalties, so he could have a bad game, score a penalty, and walk away with 8 points. One free transfer, Rogers to Matoma. Yep, solid move. He featured in my wildcard video once again. Hi Dylan, Howson, Gabriel, Robinson, and Munoz. Which two to bench? Howson on the bench for sure. The other one is close, but I'd probably bench Gabriel right now. Except Palmer, who between Neto and Cuckoo and Enzo will outshine against Southampton and Leicester. My favourite is in Cuckoo. Play Wood or Semenyo, Cliver. I'd play Chris Wood. And Cliver over Dango and Semenyo, in my opinion, which you can also see reflected in my starting 11. Should I sell Ahmad to Bowen or Mbumo and Raya to Areola or Jose Sarr to afford them? The other mid is Rogers and he has a doubt for a -4. What should I do? I love the Bowen move, even Mbumo as well, but selling Raya to Areola or Jose Sarr, not so sure about that. It might pay off for the next 3 game weeks, but long term, I think you might regret making that sort of switch. The best 3 goalkeepers for me are Sells, Pickford and Raya. The others are kind of expendable, and if you've got one of those 3 I mentioned, you kind of just stick with them for the rest of the season, I think, or for until your wildcard, basically. Winks, is that Harry Winks risky poor to maximise points? I don't think that really goes well together in the same sentence. I would not recommend Harry Winks. Timber to 8 Nuri, I have Raya. Yeah, good move. Better Gameweek 29 fixture. Even this week, 8 Nuri looks more appealing. I'm not completely against that, to be fair. Louis Gerard says, Gakpo to Cunha, yes or no? Yes, which I've been quite consistent on all stream. Mikolenko, Robinson, Howson, bench 1. It would be Howson. I have an attacker from every team they are playing, unfortunately. Yeah, that's not ideal, but I'd bench Howson nonetheless. Start Dango or Munoz? I would start Munoz. Sell Castagna for Cucurella? I'm not a big fan. I mean, Short term, you know, I get it. You could see Chelsea getting one clean sheet. I get it, but not a big fan of it. Hi Dylan, who shall I bench? Gakpo, Mitoma, or Kluivert? Thanks in advance. The thing is, if Gakpo starts, I can see him doing very well in any of the next 2 home games. That's the problem with him. So, unfortunately, I'm going to say Gakpo, but this could really backfire. I really have to say that, and I'm not a big fan of it. Yeah, that's difficult. Start Flecking or Sells? I think Sells at the moment. Thinking of getting Bowen and a cheap 3.9 million defender. Creswell or Greaves? Creswell, not a big fan of either. For Rodgers and Hall, any thoughts? Don't want a free in 29. I have 2 free transfers. Yeah, from those 2 options, it's going to be Creswell, and Bowen is a very solid move. Golden says bench Joao Pedro, Robinson or Kirkes. Currently benching Kirkes. I agree. I think you've got it spot on there. My free transfer was Cunha in for Ndai. Same here. It's kind of boring template, you could argue, but sometimes it's just the simple decision. Thank you, Napstars. Hey, Dylan. Watkins to Cunha for free or roll? Bench Gavardio or Timber? I'd still start Timber over Gavardio. The only kind of downside to what I just said is the fact Gavardio has more attacking threat. As for your first question, I like Watkins still for the next 2 game weeks, but I think Cunha is worth buying now. So I'd buy Cunha and start Timber. At rank 2.6k, would you take the risk and captain Palmer? Only if you really think he can match Salah or outscore him. I mean, ultimately, you captain the player you think will score the most points. Quite simple stuff, isn't it? But difficult to get spot on in most weeks unless you've got this Salah figure who always produces this season. But yeah, if you aren't fancying Palmer, just stick with Salah. You're already in a great rank. You can preserve it and also make up ground and push to top 1k with differentials elsewhere like in Cuckoo. But yeah, I have to say with Palmer, only go for him if you really believe he can outscore Salah. I'm 811th in the world, 4th in my country. How do I get to 1? Well, I haven't been there myself. I can only give my opinions, and I have to say I give better recommendations than maybe I do myself in terms of FPL. But it's a bit similar to what I just said to the Cylindra. So basically, for example, in the Salah-Palmer captaincy debate, if you aren't fancying Palmer, just stick with Salah, and you can always go a bit different with your other picks. You bring in an Nkuku, for example, for 2 game weeks. Maybe your chip strategy varies to other people, your assistant manager in game week 32, and then bench boost in 36. That is the way I think you can make up ground and go against the template and those in front of you to then get to the number 1 spot. But ultimately, there are so many different ways of playing the game, and you got to keep doing what you've been doing all season to get to this point. I want Mateta so bad, but I have Cunha, Wood with 0.8 million and Isak 0.9 plus. Wish if I can have a 4 frontline attackers instead of another mid. Yeah, I actually agree with you. So if I could sell Semenyo and then go to Mateta, I'd be very happy with that. The only bad thing about it is that Palace obviously blank in 29. I have Salah captain. I look around others streaming FPL, everyone backing Palmer now. Have I missed anything? No. I just think with Palmer, like I said, it's just, and I've said it all stream, the only reason I'd go for him in the end, and it's still a possibility, is simply because I want to go against the template. And you could argue, well, if a lot of people in terms of YouTube and Twitter are going for Palmer, is that really, something differential? No, it isn't. But compared to the masses captaining Salah, that is a way of gaining rank effectively. And you're kind of also backing Chelsea to just wipe the floor of Southampton, which is very likely. I've gone for 3-1 in both the Chelsea and Liverpool games, but Salah is very difficult to go against right now. Munoz or Robinson? Difficult one. I think both concede, but I would probably go for Munoz based on his form. Bench Mateta, start Bowen. I don't like benching Mateta. He's actually 7th, I think, in my captaincy list. I'll go to that again very shortly. So out of the 2, I would start Bowen, but don't bench Mateta if you can. Circus says, any transfers with 2 free moves this week? Pickford, Fabianski, Trent, Gabriel, Munoz, Mikalenko, Kluivert, Rodgers, Palmer, Salah, Raul, Isak, Wood. Yeah, as I mentioned before, if you've got the funds, Rodgers to Bowen looks very enticing. Maybe in Cuckoo as well, who's more accessible in terms of price tag. The rest is fairly decent. You don't need to make many changes, particularly with your defensive line that you've mentioned. Jimenez, yeah. Jimenez to Cunha and Rodgers to Bowen or in Cuckoo, those would be the ideal transfers. You probably don't have enough money to do both of them. If you do, that looks very nice, but then you have to bench one of your attackers, of course. So let me know how much money you have in the bank. What chips do you have left? So I've only used the assistant manager and triple captain. I've got the wildcard still in my back pocket, the free hit, and the bench boost. Visit Cunha for a -4. Not for a -4. Abhishek says Hall or Kirkes. Kirkes. Start Pickford or Sells. I'd lean towards Sells right now. Sub Dylan, start Danga or Pedro. Pedro. Keep Vissa, mate. Yeah, I agree. Play Consort or transfer him to 8 Nuri. No free hit in 29. I'd probably transfer out to 8 Nuri. Hey Dylan, bench 1, Rogers, Isak, Cliver. I'd bench Rogers. Rogers to Kulusevski or Johnson, thoughts? I mean, Brennan Johnson, just like Maddison, can sometimes find himself on the bench. He scored 2 goals against Ipswich Town, was very sharp. He'll score more goals than Kulusevski, but not start as many games as the Swede. Not a big fan of either, but I'd lean towards Brennan Johnson, I think. Currently captaining Cunha with AM on Vitor Pereira. Is this stupid? Never normally go too different. Well, no, it's not stupid. I'm backing Wolves to win 2-1, so yeah, I could see that going quite well for you. But if you are a bit fearful of going a bit too left field and, you know, maybe kind of hedging your bets a little bit, and I'm not saying you should do this, but if you are kind of feeling that way, then maybe I'd captain a Palmer or Salah instead, go a bit safer there. You've still got this AM that's kind of rogue on Vitor Pereira, and you've got Cunha in your team anyway. So that's just something you could weigh up yourself, but ultimately, I don't think it's stupid. Salah's still my captain, who always is the most consistent player. Palmer not scoring since Gameweek 21. Yeah, but he is a quality player, and it's not too often that Palmer blanks, so you would back him to do well against Southampton. So I can see why people are captaining him. I still think Salah is the number 1, though. Hi Dylan, currently 28k ranked and leaning towards captaining Fernandes. Pray for me. Well, all the best, and Fernandes is 5th in my captaincy list. If that maybe fills your confidence or not, that is for you to decide. But for those that haven't seen it, this is my Gameweek analysis and my predictions. So no changes from the wildcard video yesterday. Yeah, I have gone for a few surprising results, you could say, like Nottingham Forest 2, Arsenal 0, Tottenham 1, Man City 0, a draw between Brighton and Bournemouth. And we can talk about this once the deadline has closed. I'm a bit unsure about a few of them, even with West Ham, for example. I think Leicester could score, but because of how poor the Foxes have been, I am backing the Hammers to get another victory. So next up will be my featured player. And by the way, in the last 2 weeks, it was Cliver against Southampton, quite a simple one, but he got 5 points with the assist. And recently, it was Vissa against Leicester, getting 8 points, who is highlighted. So let's see what Cunha can do, and could he make it 3 out of 3 with this new section in my FPL videos. So the blue circles you see are the chances conceded by Fulham all season in the Premier League, whilst the heat map, which is tucked just underneath, is Matheus Cunha's shot volume in the Premier League in this campaign. So I do think it fits perfectly, and these are the clean sheet and over 2 goals odds. The clean sheets are taken from fantasyfootballpundit.com, and over 2 goals is taken by Drafthound. So that is what they've recommended, and the top 6 is ordered in terms of chance of scoring over 2 goals. Southampton are bottom, unsurprisingly, and Chelsea are number 1 with such an appealing fixture this week. And with the captaincy, a lot of people are asking about this, and it has maybe been lacking in recent streams because we've all been going for Salah, but people are now looking to go for Palmer, maybe even for the likes of Cunha, Bowen, Fernandes. They all feature in my top 5, and you can see some surprising names in this list like Heung-min Son, Chris Wood, even Trent. But I have given my reasons already for those particular inclusions, and there might be some really good options I've left out of this top 10. So if you have any ideas, let me know in the live chat and we can talk about this in more detail. Wood or Neto, still Chris Wood for me. Rogers out for a -4, and for who I have 6.1 million. Yeah, so I like Cliver. I still like him, so he'd be a decent choice. Yeah, unfortunately, some of the other options I'd recommend, even short-term, like Nkuku and Kudus, are a bit above your price threshold, which is a shame. Actually, am I chatting crap? Yeah, I am. Nkunku is 5.7 million, quite accessible. Enzo Fernandez, yeah, I mean, that could work. Midterm is a little bit above, of course, 6.4 million now. Yeah, I'd say Cliver or Nkunku. That'd be my top two recommendations. Wood or Visser? Chris Wood. I think of the Palmer captaincy like this. If Liverpool win, it doesn't have to be Salah, but if Chelsea were to win, it's most likely off to a great Palmer performance. Yeah, but then again, I think Salah's been involved in not virtually every goal, but so many goals. We're talking about 70-80% of Liverpool's Premier League goals this season. You know, he's got 41 goal contributions in 27 games. He got 2 goals and an assist the last time he played Newcastle, and Palmer, I think, got a late goal against Southampton. So I get your logic. I think, generally speaking, you are correct, but I think Salah's been really involved in everything Liverpool do in the final third. Watkins to Cunha or Mateta? I prefer Cunha, especially if you aren't free hitting in 29, but ultimately, you'd want Mateta from Gameweek 30 onwards. And Dango to Bowen for a -4? I like Bowen, but I'm not sure that's worth a hit. Yeah, thank you, Punjabi, mustly appreciated. Pierre Mongo, what a name. I probably shouldn't have said the last part. Hi, Dylan. Rodgers to Bowen, meaning bench one of Dango or Gordon, or bench Rodgers and roll. Yeah. I would buy Bowen, and in this case, I'd bench Gordon. Would he do Rodgers and Watkins to Cunha and Bowen? Yes. ¿Te gusta Neto de Chelsea? No, te digo la verdad, no me gusta mucho. Si quieres otro delantero o atacante de Chelsea, mi preferencia es Nkunku. Start Aina or Kirkes? Aina. Play one of Robinson, Gabriel and Kirkes? Robinson. I think ultimately all of them will concede. I have Cliver already, and Nkunku could work for you. Gerrit Nuri or Colwill now for future game weeks? 8 Nuri. I would normally captain Palmer this week, but Chelsea don't pass the eye test even against Southampton. I think they'll still win quite comfortably here though, but I get it. And that's why I think Salah is still the top captaincy option. If Palmer showed a bit more form, or at least better performances, I think he would be a great option here. I mean, he still is. And if you want to go different, I think Palmer is worth the punt, but Salah for me is still at number 1. Play Joao Pedro or Wanyeri? Joao Pedro. Start Wood or Cliver? Chris Wood. You can also see it reflected in my captaincy list. Cliver isn't in the top 10. Chris Wood is, so that also speaks for itself. Going back to my FPL squad and to your questions. Thank you, by the way, to Charlotte Frost. Massively appreciated. Let's answer the other questions. Drop a like if you enjoy the content. Subscribe to the channel. We are making steady progress towards 33,000 after reaching 32k only last week, I think it was, if not the week before. Time does fly when you're having fun. Louis says start 2, Cliver, Dango, Gakpo. I start Cliver and I think I chance on Gakpo, but it's really risky. There is a possibility that Gakpo doesn't start. So my advice is to sell him to Matheus Cunha, for example. Ken Back says bring in Bowen for Rodgers, then bench 1, Enzo, Mateta, Visser, or Bowen. I would probably bench Visser here. He is a much better asset than Enzo Fernandez, but he's got those 2 home games against Southampton and Leicester. Yeah. You've already got a decent midfield, and Mateta's a great option up front. But I'd bring in Bowen, and I'd bench one of Visser or Enzo. I'd definitely start Mateta and Bowen 100%. Who to bench? Isak, Wood, Mateta, or Dango? I would bench Dango. Das says, hi Dylan, would you do Mbuma to Bowen or Mikalenko to Wan-Bissaka for a -4? Neither. If I had to pick one, it's probably the Bowen one, but selling Mbuma for a hit just doesn't seem right. Els says, take a -4 to get Bowen over Diaz and bench Isak or Wood? No. I don't think that's worth it. Jose says, Isak, Wood, Mateta, Cliver, which one to bench? Cliver. Charlotte Frost says, hey, I've got free transfers, not free hitting in 29, Ahmad and Rodgers to Bowen and Enzo or someone else. Got Visser, Palmer, Salah, Dango, Wood, Isak. Thanks. That's a good front line. Really, really solid. Free transfers, nice position to be in. No free at 29. I get that. Yeah, Bowen, great move. If you want a Chelsea midfielder, I would recommend Nkunku over Enzo Fernandez. So if you've got the funds, that'll be my advice. Would you start Castagna or Konsa? Castagna. Bench Semenyo or Dango? Close. I think I'd bench Semenyo. Mbuma in for Gordon from -4. Good question. It's kind of like really close, and I'd probably say yes. Gordon's not a terrible option this week or against West Ham in 28. But the fact he blanks in 29 and Mbuma is such a steady Eddie, so to speak, I think it is worth the hit. You might want Gordon back for Gameweek 32 though, and you have to weigh that up as well. What are your plans for that double game week? How are you going to approach it? Because if you're then going to buy Gordon back for a hit, that's where I'd say, you know what, I'm not sure if it's worth it, even with blank Gameweek 29 in mind. Soldier Boy says, would you do Rogers to Bowen, Amma to Wanyeri, and Allison to Sarr for free? This would allow me to keep Cliver. What do you think? I get it. You're trying to find ways of getting Bowen in whilst also keeping Cliver. But yeah, Allison to Sarr, not too sure about that. Ultimately, I'd go for it. It's just the goalkeeper move isn't really something I'm infused about. And then if you want a defender, I mean, buying 8 Nuri and doubling up on Wolves defensively is something I would not recommend. I think one's enough. But yeah, overall, I'd go for it. Start Wood or Cliver, Chris Wood. Bench 1, Cliver, Semenyo, Mateta. Pretty much the same kind of benching stuff, I get it. From these three is Semenyo. Which AM to go for if I got Emery? I would target table bonus. So, yeah, you saw the predictions just now. There are 5 teams and 5 managers who are eligible for table bonus. One of them is Hurstler against Bournemouth. You've also got Ange Postecoglou against Tottenham. Well, he does go against Tottenham this season, doesn't he? Against Man City. You've also got Eddie Howe away to Liverpool. Glasner against Aston Villa at home. And Vitor Pereira against Fulham at home. My favourites will be Ange Postecoglou. He's probably first. I think Glasner remains second. And Vitor Pereira would be third. That would be my recommendations for the assistant manager this week. Europa 1 says, Captain Cliver, last game and Palmer tonight, awaiting Salah punishing me. I Captain Cliver in FPL Challenge. I wanted to go a bit different and that fell flat on its ass, but the red card changed the game and sometimes you need a bit of luck, especially when you go against Salah. Prince Izzy says, hi Dylan, my team is Flecken, Pickford, Gabriel, Trent, Robinson, Kirkes, Vandenberg, Salah, Palmer, Mbumo, Cliver, Dibbling, Gakpo, Isak, and Cunha. 1 free transfer, 0.3 million in the bank. Who to start or buy? Yeah, to start, I would go for Pickford personally. Gabriel. Yeah, so Trent for sure. Yeah, Robinson, Gabriel. Fair enough, that speaks for itself. Salah, Palmer, Mbumo, Cliver. Yeah, Gakpo, Isak, and Cunha. That looks fairly decent to me. 3-4-3. So basically, I would be looking to bench Kirkes, Dibbling, and Vandenberg. Yeah, that would be my recommendation. In terms of buying players, Gakpo to Chris Wood looks good, but maybe you can save this transfer for Gameweek 29 and hope that Gakpo starts one of these home games. And I think if that's the case, he gets a big return. But Chris Wood is the best Gakpo replacement for Gameweek 29 if you aren't free hitting there. And then beyond that, you'd want Jean-Philippe Mateta for Crystal Palace's double in Gameweek 32. If Chelsea don't beat Southampton and Leicester, there are pep talks soon. Well, yeah, I mean, Maresca had a good start, but we saw this kind of pattern last season at Leicester where there was a brilliant first half of the season and then they tailed off massively. So it's something to look at. Welcome, Chelsea Blues 99, and thank you, Soldier Boy. The Budget Traveller says start 1 of Wood versus Semenyo and Kirkes versus Gabriel. I'd start Chris Wood. And it might seem contradictory, but from those two, I'd still start Gabriel. If you want to avoid a conflict or clash, then I'd go for Kirkes, but I'd definitely start Chris Wood. So yeah, Crypto FPL, hopefully you got my answer. Should I transfer Gakpo out for Cunha? I would recommend it, yeah. Who would you prefer to keep out, João Pedro or Beto? Well, Beto's in better form in recent weeks. I think he's shown more consistency. I do like João Pedro against Bournemouth. I think he will start this game. But, yeah, longer term, I think Beto is still the better asset. Not by much, but yeah, I think he is. A lot of content creators are on Palmer. You're on Salah. I like that. Good luck. I actually wasn't aware. I haven't seen anything But fair enough. I mean, it's good that we have a bit of variance for once in terms of captaincy because it's basically been Salah all season. Start Dango or Chris Wood, top 18k. I would start Chris Wood. And the same goes here, Crispy. I would also start Chris Wood. Miles says bench Chris Wood, Dango or Semenyo. I would bench Semenyo. I've got a bad history with him in terms of when I bench him, he gets a lot of returns there. When I start him, he's useless. You can see him first on my bench, so take that with a pinch of salt. But from those three players, I definitely start Chris Wood. And between Dango and Semenyo, assuming Dango starts up front again, I think Dango is slightly better for now. Rodgers out for who? I have Salah, Palmer, Kluivert, Dango, and 3 million in the bank. Bowen. I think I'd chance it on Bowen here. For the next two game weeks, I like Nkuku, but Bowen also has a better fixture in Game Week 29, and beyond that, West Ham's fixtures are decent until Game Week 31, so Jarrod Bowen. Tom says, should I take a hit to replace one of my two 4 million defenders? Otherwise, I have to start Konate. I think Liverpool concede against Newcastle, but they should win the game quite comfortably. And I don't mind starting Konate this week. It's not the worst defender in the world. And you look at the options this week, like Gabriel, who's still one of the best defenders in FPL. Like, would I recommend selling that sort of thing? Like, going for Gabriel this week? Not really. So, yeah, I would recommend selling a 4 million defender. And there you can go to Nuri, maybe you go to a Chelsea defender, although I'm not a big fan. Howson and Kirkers remain good options long term. But I don't mind starting Konate, I have to say that. Rodgers to Bowen or Ndai to Cunha, or both. If both, do I bench Wood or Isak? I just do Ndai to Cunha. I'm seeing a lot of high rankers captaining Palmer. I'm on Salah at the moment, but if we're chasing rank, Palmer makes more sense, right? But that's the thing, Goldhead. I mean, that's the reason why I've been talking about Palmer all week and saying that if you want to go for the jugular and kind of go against Salah, who will be the kind of template captain amongst all FPL managers, Palmer's a nice opportunity. But then again, you're kind of saying it here, a lot of high rankers are captaining Palmer. But then if you go for Salah, you're going against them. But ultimately, there's not like one formula that kind of guarantees you a massive rank rise. Ultimately, I think Salah's effective ownership will still be very high. But yeah, it's interesting to see that we have a bit of, variety now with the captaincy all of a sudden. But I have to say, with this, people mentioning, oh, a lot of people are captaining Palmer now, that's not making me more inclined to captain him. If anything, it's making me more put off him, actually. But there you go. Start Vissa or Gakpo? Probably Vissa, just because with Gakpo, there is a chance he doesn't start. And I don't know that for sure yet, by the way. But he came off the bench against City. I think he will start one of the next two home games, but not both. Hey Dylan, should I do Watkins to Cunha and can also do Rodgers to Bowen and Boomer, but then I have to bench Wood. Not a big fan of benching Chris Wood this week, or any week actually. But Watkins to Cunha, good move in the long term. I don't mind it. Thank you, Miles. Fofana's back in the squad, which is a massive boost. I think Chelsea will be back in shape in the following weeks, as I think he's the biggest miss for us. Well, from an FPL perspective, I hope they can keep a clean sheet or two in the next two fixtures with Colwill in my setup. But we have seen Chelsea rotate quite a lot, changing goalkeepers, Colwill on the bench against Southampton, even Jackson as well, for example. So I'm just hoping that these players start and can get some good returns, but that's a good thing to point out. Howson or Castagna? Castagna this week. Thank you, Jorge. Your generosity in replying to so many questions is much appreciated. It does help to put things in perspective even when I don't follow your advice. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Joao Morales, great name, says who to bench from Bowen, Cunha, Dango or Vissa? Yeah, from those, I would bench Dango. Neto or Nkuku? Nkuku. Start Chris Wood or Gakpo? Chris Wood. Mbeumo in for Gordon for a -4? I'd probably go for it, as mentioned earlier. Dango to Nkuku, two double Chelsea players with Palmer. Yeah, that looks fairly decent. I still like Dango, by the way, but I don't mind a pun on Nkuku for the next two game weeks at least, and then you reassess. I would start Gakpo over Rodgers there, Ayush. So I've brought Bowen in for Rodgers, start Isak, Enzo and Bruno, and bench Vissa then. It's between Enzo and Vissa to bench. I'd definitely start Isak and Bruno. Normally I'd say start Vissa, but I get why starting Enzo would be tempting, at least. Worth it to do a defender transfer this game week. My defense is Greaves, Timber, Robinson, Kirkes, Williams. It's not a terrible defense this week. I mean, you've got 4 decent options. Greaves is obviously the weak link there, but he's cheap. Yeah, I mean, let's actually break it down. Who could you buy? 8 Nuri, Gabriel, but you've got Timber already. Trent, he blanks in 29. Munoz also blanks in 29, but I don't mind buying him. Yeah, I think you could roll now, but then buy Munoz in 28, especially if you're free hitting in 29. That would be my advice. Start Rogers or Mikalenko. I'm not sure if Rogers starts. That's what kind of puts me off him right now. I think I'd start Rogers here, but my preference is to actually sell Rogers to one of the budget midfielders covered in this video. But for this week, it's going to be the continue of Chelsea Circle, score 1, and getting comeback. Well, that might not be good for Palmer captainers, but yeah, I'd be shocked if Palmer doesn't come away with a big return. Best Rogers replacement with 1.8 million in the bank. Well, yeah, Bowen is just above that price threshold. In Nkunku for a short-term pun, I think, is decent. Then you're also looking at Kudus, maybe. Matoma is a solid choice long-term. I still like Kluivert. I think Kluivert's probably the one. David says, Dylan, sitting at 3 million rank, would you risk it and go for Palmer captain or Salah? Yeah, look, I get it. You know, and I'm also in a position where I want to go up in rank. I'm not happy with where I am. But the thing is, Salah will be the template captain, right? If you think he's going to score the most points, go for Salah and don't overcomplicate it. That would be my advice, generally speaking. But I get it for those that just want to go for the jugular and hope that Salah has an off day, and Palmer would be a very solid choice to go against him. But then again, you've got a lot of engaged managers on Twitter and YouTube who are going for Palmer captain. So I'm just saying, when I saw people mention that in the live chat, that's actually put me off Palmer a little bit more. But that's just my opinion on it. It doesn't have any kind of logic to it. Yeah, Salah's still first on my captaincy list, Palmer second, so that'll be my recommendation still, irrespective of your rank. But Palmer is still there as a nice opportunity to go against Salah. I'm currently going for the Egyptian still. I need a goalkeeper to cover this game week and the 29 blank. Can't afford a Nana. Who should I buy? 4.6 million. Jose Sarr might be the one for you, but I'm not a big fan. In fact, you're probably looking at Flecken. The thing is, Brentford's fixtures turn for the worse fairly soon. And yeah, I don't think Flecken is really worth buying now, actually. Thank you, Gabunia. Hi, Dylan. Like your team. Good luck. Looking for Chelsea double attack. Who do you suggest? Hit like. Thank you very much. I'd go for Nkunku as a second Chelsea attacker. Kirkes, Trent, Timber, Munoz. Who to play? I would go for Trent, Munoz, and I think Timber. Flecken or Jorgensen? This week it'd be Jorgensen. Dango or Semenyo? Dango this week. Long term, I think he's a bit expendable, especially if Evanilson takes his place and he drops to the bench. But yeah, this week Dango. Hi Dylan, hope you're doing well. Benching headache. Need to bench one. I'm guessing this is Visser, Wood, Dango, or Kluivert. Yeah, from those I would yeah, put Dango on the bench. I've had a lot of similar questions already with the same players, and I've been very consistent on that. Nkunku or Bowen? Bowen. Bench Dango or Diaz? I would perhaps bench Dango here. Should I use my AM if I have all my chips to use? I'd rather use it later in the season. I get it, since you've got all my, all your chips. You don't want to use the AM maybe in Game Week 32. I get that. But then you could maybe use it around Game Week 35 or 36. Assuming that by that stage you've used all the others, like free hit 29, triple captain 32, bench boost 33, and wildcard between Game Week 30 and 34. Then you can use your AM in 35 or 36. So I would not use the AM right now. Do you reckon AM Glasner 31, 33 is a shout with 5 possible bonus games, or maybe save for 36, 38? In isolation, that's my favourite time to use it, on Oliver Glasner or Eddie Howe around Game Week 32. And I think Glasner looks very appealing with potential table bonus in most of those games. But with Palace's recent form and some of the upcoming fixtures, there is a possibility they rise to 11th or 10th in the Premier League table. So some of those possible table bonus games will possibly become non-table bonus. but Glasner remains appealing regardless. A7 Mad says, I need a goalkeeper to cover. That's been covered. As a Chelsea fan, I don't believe in Cuckoo, especially his injury. I would rather have Palmer as a striker. Yeah, but in terms of FPL assets in the midfield and forward line, in Cuckoo would be my preference. And in the reverse fixture against Southampton, he got a big return, actually. Hi, Dylan. I have Sarr and looking to remove him. Should I go for Bowen or Mbumo? I'm ranked at 2.3 million. Bowen has a better Gameweek 29 fixture. I'd also say he's got a better fixture now against Leicester. And Brentford's long-term fixtures aren't great. But then when you compare both assets, I think Mbumo is generally better. He's also more template. So it's a very close call. I would lean towards buying Bowen if I'm looking to invest right now. That would be my preference. But Mbumo is still a very solid choice, arguably the third best midfielder in FPL overall. Start 2 of the above, said Pratik. Okay, so I have to bench 2 of them. So yeah, Chris Wood and Cliver, I think. Yeah. Does Evanescence being back impact how good of an asset Dango is? I think the main concern is, does it mean Dango drops to the bench? Or, I think the most kind of logical thing is, by the way, I've kind of lost my screen, I don't know what's happening. Let me know if there's any like, I don't know, freezing or anything, if things are smooth with the audio and visuals. I think there was a few issues last time out, but yeah, with this question, I think the main concern is Dango being out of position or going back to his normal spots on the wings, for example. But that's not too shabby, right? I think what would be even worse if is Dango drops to the bench entirely. That's something I would just not like at all, even for a budget midfielder. But yeah, I think Evanesson's return could spell some trouble there. Start 1, Lewis, Wanyeri, Matoma, Kirkes. Matoma. Timber or Dango? Dango. Should I start Gakpo or Kluivert? Kluivert. Start Semenyo or Dango? Dango. Any suggestions for a 5th mid for a wild card? I have Salah, Palmer, Bowen, Mbumo. Matoma still decent. If you want to go a bit cheaper, I like Kluivert. I really like him. And Bournemouth mids are still decent, of course. Wanyeri. Nkuku as a punt. So I think the safest pick is Kluivert. If you want to go a bit differential and still go quite cheap, Nkuku would be my preference there. Hey Dylan, good afternoon. Start Kirkes or Mikalenko? I'd lean towards Kirkes because of the attacking threat. I think both of them concede. I think Palmer's in bad form. He is, but he's facing 2 of the worst teams in the league. That's why people are captaining him. And yeah, so some of these questions have been answered a lot, so just bear in mind, repeat questions may be skipped, so be aware of that. With this one, I'd lean towards Dango this week over Semenyo. Thank you, Pratik. A7 Mad says, I'm starting Semenyo and Vissa over Isak. It's not complete madness, but it's worth mentioning Isak has a good record against Liverpool. 3 goals, 1 assist in 5 matches against them. He scored at Anfield last season. He also got a goal and an assist in their recent meeting at St James's Park. Start Kirkes or Munoz? Munoz. I would start Kluivert over Gakpo as mentioned before. Best defender under 4.2 million. Not a big fan of most of them. You could make a case for Creswell right now. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of most of them. I'd rather invest in a more expensive defender like Nico Williams, who isn't too far off. The best assistant manager for me is Ange Postecoglou, but there's also Oliver Glasner and Vitor Pereira. Those 3 are the standouts. If I had the chip active this week, I'd be going for one of them. I think Spurs will win 1-0. I've gone for Wolves 2, Fulham 1. And I went for a draw in the Brighton-Bournemouth game. Hurstler might be another consideration for you. And for the Glasner game, for Crystal Palace, I've gone for 3-2 in favour of the Eagles. So, yeah, one of those 3 table bonus managers will be my preference. I think Postecoglou might be first. Hi, Alisson or Flecken to start? I would probably just start Alisson here. Yeah, close. I think both concede. Yeah, really, really difficult one. I'd go for Flecken, but yeah, it's 50-50. I ultimately don't think any of them will do that well. Maybe I'll be wrong. Wanyeri or Gakpo? I'd start Gakpo. One last issue to figure out. Would you bench Gabriel or Aït-Nouri? So yeah, Gabriel is still the best FPL asset. I'd start him most weeks. This time round, though, I'd maybe chance on Aït-Nouri. Yeah, should I use my AM in this game week? I still got my bench boost, free hit, and wildcard also. Yeah, I covered this before my TS. I would still use it later in the season. I don't like using it now. There are some decent options this week, and even Postecoglou against Bournemouth in 28, but it's more powerful in a double game week. Greaves, Hall, Virgil, Mikolenko start 2. I would start Virgil and Mikolenko. Salah, Palmer, Foden, Kluivert, Bowen, bench 1. Foden. Hi Dylan, would I start Gakpo or Wood? I'd recommend Chris Wood. Pickford or Kepa? I would start Pickford. Any chance for a Forest clean sheet? I think they're going to win 2-0, so I think they've got a chance. Start Aina over Gabriel. That's what I'd suggest. Now, would it surprise me if Arsenal got a win, clean sheet, and Gabriel, got a massive return? No, it wouldn't, but at the moment, I think Forest are in a better position to win the game. Bench Gakpo or Beto? Thing of Gakpo, like I said, is we don't know if he's going to start for sure. If he does, I think he's quite appealing this week. And also against Southampton, but with the possibility of him being benched in mind, I'd probably just go for Beto, actually. Henderson or Raya? I have gone for a Palace win, but I did say Villa, to score 2 goals? 3-2 win for Palace. I still think Arsenal have a better chance for a clean sheet, so from that perspective, I'm going to say Raya. Bench 1, Dango, Isak or Wood? Dango. Kenny Sr. says, I have Hall, but unsure whether to get Kirkes or Tarkovsky. I think Hall would be at the bottom of the list, despite having the best assist credentials, and generally speaking, I'd start him, but against Liverpool away, I'd rather bench him. There are some tweets claiming Howson torn his ACL. Let me check that myself. Thank you very much for bringing it to my attention. That would be devastating news, by the way, for Bournemouth. And of course, Abani is suspended. It's not looking very good for them. I might even lean towards a Brighton win now, actually. So yeah, in my actual team, by the way, I've got this possibility. I just brought in Kluivert last week, by the way, but I could sell him to Bowen for a hit and still bench Semenyo. I mean, that's very risky. I'm not sure if it's even worth it, but yeah, that is something worth considering. Let's see if I can find this Howson news, which I don't doubt, by the way, but just to have a look. What the hell? Yeah, I'm not sure how reliable the sources are. Yeah. I'm not sure if it's true. I'm just saying. So for those with Howson, I would bench him this week anyway, but maybe wait for more information in terms of selling. I have Emery, AM, who to go for free, as covered earlier. One of Postecoglou, Glasner, or Vitor Pereira, probably in that order, by the way. I think those 3 will win this week. So, yeah, I think those would be very appealing with the table bonus. Start 2, Isak, Raul, and Dango. I'd start Isak for sure, and then I think Raul. Hi Dylan, what's Salah's record against Newcastle? 10 goals, 7 assists in 16 games against Newcastle with no losses. Palmer's not in form, but it is Southampton. Well, Salah's still first for me in the captaincy list and Palmer's second, but I've mentioned this before. I generally recommend to people, and it's kind of simple logic, but people do sometimes not really do it. Captain the player you think will score the most points, but if you are in such a position where you're thinking about rank a lot, I think Salah is the kind of conservative pick, which kind of protects your rank, and you can go differential with your transfers. With Cole Palmer, that is an opportunity, albeit still very risky, to go against Salah and go for Palmer, backing the fact that Southampton are the worst team in the league and Chelsea can get their act together in this game. But yeah, Salah is still first in my list, Palmer second, and that's why I've currently got Salah kind of busting. But is that even a word? Maybe that's just the wrong word to use in general. He is my bus captain. I think that's probably what I meant to say. Pause. Neto and Cuckoo for punt, chasing rank in Cuckoo. Aria says, which 3 should I start? Dean, James, Kirkes, Aina, Kanate. I would start Reece James, Aina, and I think Kanate here. Bench Wood or Neto? I'd bench Neto. Hi Dylan, would you start Areola over Henderson this week? Thanks for the amazing content. I think I would. I've gone for a 2-0 West Ham win. I'm not entirely convinced about the defence, despite decent defending over the weekend. And I am backing a high-scoring thriller in that Palace-Aston Villa match. So, yeah, Areola for me. Mikalenko or Hall? Mikalenko. Get Cunha next week and start Rodgers, or Cunha this week and bench Rodgers? I think I just buy Cunha now and bench Rodgers. Best second keeper for 4 to 4.5 million. Also buy sells now or wait for a better game week to replace Raya. Yeah, I'd probably just make that move in 29. And even then, Raya is still in that podium of best goalkeepers for me. Best second goalkeeper is probably Areola. Otherwise, you're looking at Flecken. You don't need to spend a lot of money in that position. Have one main option and then a backup. If he plays, that's, ideal. He can come on if needed. But ultimately, yes, Areola. So should I use my AM in 36 and free in 29? I don't know your team for me to say that's exactly what you should do. But that is one avenue and one route in terms of navigating these blanks and doubles with the chips. But it might not be the best for you because I don't know your team and your situation. Would you bench Danga for Isak? Yes, I would. He's lying. Howson didn't turn no ACL. Well, I'm not sure what the actual source is originally, but the ones I saw were just people on Twitter chatting nonsense, I think. Start Pickford or Henderson? I would start Pickford. Play Hall or Mikalenko? As covered before, it would be Mikalenko. Even in your situation, I'd stick with the same answer, I think. Bench Kluivert, Semenyo or Enzo? I'd bench Semenyo. Hi Dylan, bench Wood or Neto? I'd bench Pedro Neto once again. Which three should I start? Dean, James, Kirkes, Aina, Kanate. Just covered that. Lager says the only way you would be punished is if Palmer scores 1+ goal and Salah none. If you're ranked 60k, I think Salah is the best option for you unless you really want to climb even more. Yeah, I think it's probably a classic case of chase rank or preserve. I still think Salah's the best captain. That's why I'm going for him right now. And the only reason I'd go against him and go for Palmer in the end is really just because of my rank and I want to maybe just do something against the template. I have a mid and attack of Salah, Palmer, Kluivert, Mbumo, Isak, Cunha, Joao Pedro, Nkuku start over any. Well, yeah, if you buy Nkuku, he'd be there to start, of course, and I think Kluivert might have to be the sacrifice. It's between him and Joao Pedro, and I think Joao Pedro looks appealing this week, but he's so difficult to predict. I will look and try find sources. I just got a message from my friend. Yeah, I saw on Twitter and only a few tweets, so maybe there was an actual reliable source who said it, but from what I've seen, it doesn't look too feasible. Neto or Nkuku as a punt? Nkuku. Hi Dylan, start Danga or Gakpo? I'd chance on Gakpo, but as I mentioned before, there is a chance he doesn't start. I've heard nothing of a Howson injury. Yeah, I don't blame you there. Bench one of Kluivert, Danga or Elanga? I think I'd still bench Elanga here, but that could be a mistake. Isak to Cunha for -4? No. I don't think that's worth it. You can always buy Cunha for free in 28 or 29. Who to bench between Wood, Kluivert and Marmoush? I'd bench Marmoush. Nico Williams, Aina, Mikalenko, or go for a West Ham defender? I'd go for Aina. Bus conductor? Yeah, it's just that kind of terminology in FPL about having your bus team. So, like, if you were hit by a bus, how's your team looking like before the deadline? I don't know where it's actually come from, but it's kind of popular. Jonathan says Joao Pedro or Cunha? Cunha. Start Gabriel, Trent, Munoz, Mikalenko, Robinson. I'd start Trent, Munoz, and I'd still go for Gabriel, I think. Bench one of Wood, Vissa, or Semenyo. I'd bench Semenyo. Thank you, LNW. Matthias says, which player should I buy if I have Gakpo on the bench and I have free in 29 instead of 36? I have 0.2 million in the bank. Well, Gakpo to Cunha is a great move. I like Chris Wood, but the best time to buy him is arguably Game Week 29. The likes of Isak and Jean-Philippe Mateta also complete the best forwards in the game, but you can only pick 3 of them. And of course, in the case of Isak and Mateta, they both blank in 29. But yeah, any of those 4 forwards will be a great replacement for Gakpo. Mazraoui or Kirkes? I don't like United defensively, but in this case, I'd go for Mazraoui. No any big news, I think. Howson or Kanate? Probably Konate. I think both concede. Liverpool have a better chance of a clean sheet. Start Enzo or Kluivert. Kluivert. Jocelyn on Brian's official page. Welbeck's in the squad. Might take the -4 and sell Joao Pedro to Cunha. Yeah, he might not start. He was kind of highlighted as doubtful by Hurstler. I'm not sure how reliable this guy is in press conferences, by the way, when it comes to injury news. Bruno or Bowen for the next 3 game weeks? Bowen. Start Enzo or Kluivert. Covered. Bench Wood or Isak or Kluivert? Yeah, once again, I'm going to bench Kluivert reluctantly. And in this one, same thing. Southampton is not as bad as current Chelsea, actually. That's not true. I mean, they just lost 4-0. Chelsea have been very disappointing, and they've pretty much completely fumbled it in terms of any title chances, but they never really had one realistically with that defence and goalkeeper. Others posting as fake news, could be people trolling. Yeah, I saw one person tweet it, and they posted the source, which was himself, and they've got like a weird name, so yeah, I wouldn't pay too much attention to it. If I'm wrong, then we can talk about it, but thank you, Denon, for the super chat. Massively appreciated. My rank is Palmer captain. Makes sense. I get that completely. It's just, I'm seeing a lot of people mentioning Palmer captain now in terms of people on YouTube and Twitter, and that's kind of putting me off right now. But maybe I'll just kind of like go against Salah and hope for the best and see if that gives me a big rank rise. Is it over if Arsenal lose again? Well, realistically, it is over. And it's not over based on the West Ham game. It's over based on the summer window. And then you look at the injuries that happen. Going into January, for Arsenal not to sign anyone, they seal their fate. They kind of accepted 2nd to 4th. I think the Arsenal board are happy with Champions League football. They don't want to go the extra mile to win the league. And that's ultimately where the problem comes from. I don't think Howson has torn his ACL. I'm not saying definitively one way or the other, but based on the tweets I've seen, they don't seem reliable at all. Start Enzo Fernandez or Kluivert. Once again, I'm going to go for Kluivert. I get the temptation to start Enzo and Chelsea assets, so if you want to go for it, and it would be a differential, by the way, it's not a terrible call. Bruno or Bowen for the next 3 game weeks? Once again, Bowen. Transfer Emery if I have the transfer? Yeah, I think so. So a table bonus manager like Ange Postecoglou, Vitor Pereira or Oliver Glasner, they are the top 3 ones, in my opinion. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of people now saying the same thing about Howson. That's just been covered. If you've got a source, a reliable one, post it on the live chat and we can go through it. But from what I've seen, they are just random tweets by people on Twitter. Howson, Timber, Robinson, Branthwaite, bench 1. This is not even, taking into account the rumours, which I don't think are true, about Howson. I'd bench him from those 4. Defender to buy, Wan-Bissaka. Not a big fan of him. Not really a big fan of him. I'd actually rather go for Aït-Nouri, if anything. So this week, West Ham have a better chance of a clean sheet, but also long term, I'd rather have Aït-Nouri. What to do with Rodgers? I have 2 million in the bank. Bowen would be a nice replacement. My punt this week, when people were chasing around by Captain Palmer, realised they will keep on chasing, says Jorge. Yeah, possibly. It can go against them, but Palmer blanking against Southampton would be unlikely. It's just Palmer could get 8 points like he did last time against Southampton, and then you see Salah get 16 plus points. I need to bench 1. Who starts? Visser, Wood, Isak? I'd bench Visser. Is Palmer a sell after Southampton-Leicester? It depends on context, right? If he looks completely off it, if Chelsea are terrible, then it might be a consideration, but my current answer will be no. Transfer Emery, if I have the transfer, once again, yes. The 5 managers who can get table bonus are Hurstler from Brighton, Vitor Pereira from Wolves, Ange Postecoglou at Tottenham, Oliver Glasner at Crystal Palace, and Eddie Howe against Liverpool. I would not go for Eddie Howe personally. The top 3, as I've said many times in the stream, are going to be Postecoglou, Glasner, and Pereira. Aina or Mikalenko or Munoz or Robinson, which one to bench? A lot of benching questions today. I'm kind of getting numb to them. I think from those 4, I'd bench Mikalenko. Raya or Jose Sarr? I think I'd still go for Raya. Better for Cunha? I like better for the next 3, but Cunha is an upgrade. Yeah, I think I'd still do it. Captain Nkuku, that's very rogue. And you can do it, of course. It might even pay off big time. He did extremely well against Southampton last time out. Gakpo to Cunha for a hit, says Clifford. If you've got decent bench coverage, I'd say no. However, if you got someone poor off the bench or you just have to start Gakpo, I think I just take the hit. Cunha's a nice long-term transfer. Abhishek says, hi Dylan, start Rodgers or Semenyo. It'd be Semenyo and Gabriel. Thank you, Screwster. Thanks for the stream and all the valuable info you provide. Start Sells or Raya. I prefer Sells this week. I'm backing Forest to win. Thank you very much for the kind words. Eddie, you asked this already, mate. I said Mazraoui. Bench one of Isak, Wood, Bowen and Cliver. I'd bench Cliver. Aina or Mikolenko, Munoz, Robinson, which one to bench? Also covered. So let's go for some new ones as well. By Cucurella or James. Not a big fan of any, to be quite honest with you. But I think Cucurella simply because with James, he could get an injury out of nowhere, unfortunately. In Kuku for Dango. Yeah, nice move for the short term. I'm on the fence. Yeah, thank you, by the way, Keith, for moderating the chat. I'm on the fence of playing Gakpo or Beto today. Yeah, I think Gakpo could start. It's not a guarantee. Beto's in great form. I think the safest pick is probably Beto. Can it go against you? Of course it can. That's FPL. Mbuma is an option for the captaincy. I think he's 7th in my list, but Everton are in good form. There are better options elsewhere. Play 2 from Watkins, Bowen, Semenyo. I'd bench Semenyo there. Thank you, Pratik. Circuit says start Clover, Palmer, Salah, Mbuma, and any transfer for Rodgers with an extra 0.2 million in the bank. Well, I would go for Nkuku here. Jose Sarr or Raya? Raya. Buy Nuri for Kirkes or keep him? I'd keep Kirkes. Kirkes or Aina? Aina. Once again, thank you, Keith, for moderating the chat. No worries, Eddie. Munoz or Aina? I think Forest have a better chance of a clean sheet this week, but Munoz has so many avenues to points, and he's currently the best defender in the game. I'd go for Munoz. Gakpo to Cunha? Yes. Hi, Dylan, start Allison or Raya? Allison. Buy Nuri for Kirkes next week or keep him? Yeah, keep Kirkes, as mentioned before. Matthias says best replacement of Gakpo, free at 29, and should the player start instead of Gakpo against Everton? So you're free hitting in 29. Yeah, Mateta, Isak, Cunha, Wood, they're the 4 best forwards. If you're buying one now, it's going to be Cunha or Jean-Philippe Mateta for me. Ndai to Cunha and bench 1, Gakpo, Elanga, Matoma, Cliver. I would bench Elanga from those, which might be a mistake, but that'd be my take. Thank you to Stepaki for the summary. Yeah, it's an interesting debate, I think, between Palmer and Salah. Offensive data for Gameweek 27 and 28. Ranked 1, Chelsea in first, Brighton, Palace, Liverpool, Wolves, West Ham in the top 6, suggested by FPL Optimized. Yeah, not too dissimilar to the list I showed you according to Drafthound, but there are a few changes in there. I think Wolves are one of the main ones. Start 2 of Watkins, Isak and Wood. I don't like benching any of these players, but it might have to be Watkins here, which, once again, could be a big mistake. Hi, by the way, very late to the party. You still made it on time. That's the most important thing. I think I'm staying on Salah. That's my current view. Not locked in yet, though. As for my transfer, I mean, pretty much, yeah, standard stuff. I bought in Cunha for Ndai. Very simple. I've benched Semenyo. It'll probably result in bench pain. But with the captaincy, nothing is clear-cut. So, bench 1, Isak, Dango, Vissa. I would bench Dango, Ouattara. Kirkes or Gay? Kirkes. Best replacement of Gakpo, free at 29. That's been covered. Thank you, VE Portfolio. High Legend, start with Gakpo or Dango. I'd chance with Gakpo personally, but it is risky. Should I sell Hall for 8 Nuri? I need to get to 3 players blanking in 29. Right, okay. Yeah, I'd do it. And you can buy Lewis Hall in Gameweek 30 again. Hey mate, start one of Mikolenko, Hall, Concert. Appreciate the stream. Mikolenko. I think all of them will concede. And Lewis Hall, you could argue, has the best assist threat, but against Liverpool, I'd just rather start Mikalenko. Trossard and Watkins to Bowen and Cunha for a hit. That is close. I'd do it. But we're talking about very fine margins here. Start Alisson or Flecken. I would go for Alisson. Alisson? I had this question before and I did deviate between the two. I ultimately said Flecken. It's just the Everton-Brentford game I think could be lower scoring. I've gone for 1-1. With the Liverpool one, I've gone for 3-1. I'd lean towards Flecken, but yeah, very close. Sell Hall or keep him and bench him in 29 or sell Gvardiol. I'd rather sell Gvardiol and have Hall in place for Gameweek 32. Start Semenyo over Isak if you have no Brighton defenders, but I have Trent. I'd still start Isak. Mbeumo is an option of captain, you reckon? Yep, he's 7th on my list. Sell Gakpo or Haaland. I'd rather sell Gakpo. Well, they're both injury doubts to be fair. Gakpo came off the bench against City, so he's in a better place. 2 decent home games. Yeah, I'd rather sell Haaland, I think, but that could easily change in a week's time, and by that stage you might want Haaland back for blank Gameweek 29, so that's a difficult one. Watkins or Cunha? Cunha. Dango or Kluivert to start? Kluivert. In place of Watkins, Cunha or Evanilson? Definitely Cunha. So to do Rodgers to Bowen, would you do Robinson to Wan-Bissaka or Gabriel to Aït-Nouri? Probably Robinson to Wan-Bissaka. I like Gabriel from Gameweek 30 onwards. Thank you, Paolo, for the super chat. I just saw it. Bench one of Wood, Enzo, Kluivert, or Wood to Cunha? I would bench Enzo personally, but I understand if you want to start him. And if that's the case, Kluivert would be the one to drop out. But I'd definitely start Chris Wood 100%, and I'd personally bench Enzo. Wood to Cunha? Nah, not for me. I like Cunha a lot, and my suggestion would be to buy him alongside Chris Wood, but not to Chris Wood's detriment. Josh L says bench 2, Konate, Trent, Milenkovic, Gabriel, Wood, Dango, Kluivert, Isak. I'd bench Konate, and I think I'd bench another defender here, actually. Well, actually, no, you need those 3 defenders. Yeah, Konate and Dango on the bench. So let's see. We are 1 super chat away from the goal, and if we reach it, then this will go on for even longer, this stream. There could be a reaction stream tomorrow. I'm not able to do one on Thursday, and very soon, either today, well, yeah, probably tomorrow or on Thursday, I'm going to record the first draft for UCL Fantasy. I've got all the graphics set up for that, and I've got a decent team, actually, but it is a first draft. There is room for improvement, and that will also be covered in future videos. There could be a best squad for Matchday 11 and also my own team selection, which is always going to be the case for UCL Fantasy. And next Tuesday, there will be a UCL Fantasy deadline stream for the round of 16, and all of that content will be on this channel. So subscribe, like the video, hit that notification bell so you never miss a single upload or live stream, and it'd be a pleasure to have you on board. Marmush, Vissa or Dango to start? Vissa. Thank you, Mishi, and nice words. Hi, Argentino legend. Start Dango, Wood or Isak? Isak. Well, sorry. Chris Wood is my favourite this week, then Isak, and then Dango. So if I had to bench one, it's going to be Dango. Start Trent or Robinson? I'd start Trent. Drop Gabriel, Rodgers and Watkins from Mbeumo, Cucurella and Cunha, but for a -4. Not a big fan of Gabriel to Cucurella. I love the other 2 moves. They're great. And you might want to consider Bowen as a differential or in Cuckoo instead of Mbeumo, but really good moves. Just not sure about Gabriel to Cucurella. But as a -4 here, taking into account blank Gameweek 29 and the future game weeks, I think it is a worthwhile hit. I just don't like the defender transfer. Is having Bowen differential enough to jump rank a lot, or should I also captain Palmer? That's difficult to say. I mean, you're sat around 800k. That could be different for other people watching, especially those who might be top 10k, for example, and stuff like that. But yeah, Bowen is a differential. He is going to be bought by a lot of engaged managers on Twitter and YouTube. Having said that, captaining Palmer, that's also going to be quite template amongst engaged managers, and his effective ownership will be higher than people expect, I think. But the template captain remains Salah amongst all FPL managers we're talking about. But the answer to your question would be yes. There is still room for differentials in other areas, though. Bench Visser, Wood, or Dementi? Was that? Yeah, I'm not sure who the last player is, by the way. Let me know. Maybe I'm being stupid. But yeah, from Visser and Wood, I'd start Chris Wood. Are you confident with Sells, or would you go Flecken? I would not be buying Flecken. Brentford's fixtures turn for the worst fairly soon, and in Gameweek 29, I think Sells is arguably the best goalkeeper for the Blanks. So, yeah, Sells has been poor since I've bought him in. I hold my hands up, but I still think he's a decent goalkeeper. Cunha or Damsgaard? Cunha. Pereira or keep Ireola? I'd go for Pereira. Start Diaz or Jorginho Rota? I think I'd go for Jorginho Rota, but close. Bench Visser, Wood, Semenyo? I'd bench Semenyo. Moman M says, should I sell Hall for 8 Nuri? Yeah, provided you can buy Hall back in 30. That looks pretty decent. Bench Cliver, Wood, Isak or Visser? I would bench Visser. And thank you, Keith and Twisted Parky, for moderating the chat. Massively appreciated. Also to Punjabi as well. So yeah, any spam questions, they may be skipped. And yeah, spamming is just not tolerated. Is it worth to play Assistant Manager this week? I don't think so. Now, could one of Glasner, Pereira or Postecoglou get 20 points? Yes, they can, but there's still a higher ceiling for me around Gameweek 32. The only downside to playing it at that stage is you can't use the triple captain or bench boost in 33 because once the AM is active, that's a free Gameweek period and you can't use 2 chips at the same time. Start Dango or Wood? Chris Wood. Start Gabriel or Robinson? Gabriel. Would you start Gakpo over Dango? Yes, I would, and chance it, but it is a risk. Start Semenyo, Cliver, or Wood, any two? I'd bench Semenyo, basically. So Chris Wood and Cliver. Yeah, Matthias, you have asked this question a lot of times, I think, maybe in different variations. I would sell Gakpo to Cunha. That is my recommendation. Damsgaard against Everton isn't a terrible pick either. I don't really mind that. You reckon Flecken will be a good goalkeeper for the next few games? Decent. For the next 3, he's okay. But even Gameweek 29 against Bournemouth away, I'm not a big fan of that fixture. Do I bench boost Raya, Diaz, Konsa, Greaves? I wouldn't bench boost that. I think Raya and Diaz are good, but then you look at Konsa and Greaves, I think that lets it down. I could be wrong, but... Hey, who's going to say, please, this is Dylan's wildcard squad? This is not my wildcard squad. I would not have Veltman if this was a wildcard squad, or Vali Marson. You can check out my wildcard video. That is what I determined to be the best wildcard team if you are using it this week or want some ideas for transfers, but this is not what you see on screen. In Boomer and Visser, the new Lautaro and Lukaku duo? No, they're a good duo, but they're a bit different, I think. Bench 1, Kirkes, Robinson, Nico Williams, Timber. Kirkes. I mean, having Cook already, just wondering if he replaces any of these in the 11. Yeah, no, I get that. I get that. And I think ultimately it's one of Joao Pedro or Cliver who drop out. I'd lean towards Joao Pedro over Cliver this week, but once again, with JP, it's so difficult to anticipate his returns. That's been the case all season. Let's put a poll out since this is the big discussion this week. Palmer versus Salah, who do we go for? So let's put this on. Like the video. Let's get this stream to over 200 likes. We're very close to that milestone or that goal. The next milestone for the channel is 33k subscribers. Thank you to those that have supported the channel. The patrons, members, super chatters, subscribers and commenters, you're all massively appreciated. So yeah, let's get this poll up as well. So who are you captain? Let's put Palmer and Salah in this list. Just gonna add some emojis, but I am using another laptop to do this stream, basically to have yeah, it's kind of a long story. Don't think you need to know, but yeah, unfortunately I can't even have the emojis set in place for some reason. I have to search them up like an idiot. So let's get this up quickly. All right. And let's put the cap emoji. All right, there we go. So we have answered hundreds of questions already. I say we, I'm not Venom. I've answered hundreds of questions in this stream, and hopefully this has been very useful. I'll get back to you very soon, of course. But what I want to do before I go back to some new questions and stuff is the graphics and FDR and stuff like that. But if you haven't already, join the FPL Dylan League. There is a link in the description below, and the code can be found on the left-hand side of your screen pretty much throughout the stream. Not right now, but you can do throughout most of it. Let me just unselect that message. So yeah, big shout out to Callum, who is 8th in the world. I think even 2nd place, who is Alex. He is 20th in the world as well. Hopefully we do have the eventual winner in the league, and make sure to join if you haven't already. With the FDR, Wolves, Chelsea, Bournemouth, Brighton and City complete the top 5. If we look at those near the bottom, Aston Villa, Fulham, Everton, Leicester and Brentford. With predicted points, so starting from 10th, Foden is somehow in there. Mateta's 9th, Cunha 8th, and then we've got Fernandes, Isak and Bumo, Son, Nkuku, Salah and Palmer. Some of these names do feature in my captaincy list, but not all of them. As for managers, in terms of the worst ones, according to Fantasy Football Hub, from Gameweek 27 to 29, Howe is bottom. You've got Emery, Juric, Van Nistelrooy, and Nuno. Then you've got the legendary David Moyes, Ursula, Marco Silva, Iriola, McKenna, Thomas Frank, Arne Slot, Oliver Glasner, Amrim, Vitor Pereira, Graham Potter, Maresca, Guardiola, Arteta, and Postecoglou. For this week, if you are looking to use the assistant manager, I personally wouldn't activate it now, but for those that have it active, the top 3 in order for me would be Ange Postecoglou, Oliver Glasner, and Vitor Pereira. All of them are eligible for table bonus. The same goes for Eddie Howe away to Liverpool, but I would not recommend that, and Juric away to Chelsea, which is also not recommended. With projected price changes, let me refresh this page and see if anything has changed. So Cunha, Bowen, Marmoush, Asensio, Mitoma, Mbumo, Munoz and Wan-Bissaka could all go up in price tonight. With price falls, you've got Rodgers, Roman Esse, Foden, Gordon, Aina, Cher, Dibbling, Murphy, Raul, Diaz. And let's go to the other players. We've got like 3 pages of this, but bear in mind not all of them will happen, especially with these projected price falls. Martinelli, Trossard, Martinez, that's the United one. Madueke, Darwin, Lewis, Calvert-Lewin, Isak, Pedro Porro, Havertz, McAteer, Samari, Chigdekore, Dawson, Lavia, Murillo, and Grealish. So we'll see if any of these don't happen in the end. As for stats, the big question this week, Palmer versus Salah for the captaincy. Palmer has the fixture but not the form, while Salah has a combination of both, but primarily it is the form, of course, and a great record against Newcastle with 10 goals and 7 assists in 16 games against the team. Liverpool have never lost to Newcastle in the Premier League, while Salah has been there as well. I'm backing 3-1 wins for both Chelsea and Liverpool, which I'll show you in a few seconds. But let's also preview Gameweek 28 with my team. And this is Gameweek 29, by the way, what you see right now. I have an 11 for Gameweek 29, but I've got Veltman and Colwill, who are terrible assets. I'd like to sell them for that blank, and I would have 2 free transfers if I roll next week. I'm not in a great position with the amount of transfers I've got available, and the big priority after Gameweek 29 is to invest in Newcastle and Crystal Palace for their double in Gameweek 32. As for FPL Challenge, I'm only going to show it briefly because this will be talked about more in, well, after the deadline has passed in 10 minutes time. And by the way, right now we've got less than 7 minutes, so lock in your teams, have your captain set, and hopefully we don't have another situation of a prolonged deadline like last week. But that is my current squad with Sells, Trent, Wan-Bissaka, Munoz, Salah, Palmer captain here, Bowen, Fernandes, Cunha, and Mateta, and Ange Postecoglou is my chosen manager. He is my favourite in terms of table bonus for Gameweek 27. Let's now go to my analysis very quickly. This will also give you an insight in terms of my predictions and why I think certain things in terms of benching dilemmas, transfers and captaincy. So I'm not going to read them out now. I'll probably go back into it after the deadline once again. And I'm just going to let this play out. My highlighted player this week is Matheus Cunha facing Fulham. And as you can see here, team weakness. And very shortly you'll see the blue circles indicating the chance conceded by Fulham this season. And the heat map is Matheus Cunha's shots throughout the campaign. These are the clean sheet and over 2 goals odds. So the clean sheets are taken from All About, I keep saying All About, it's fantasyfootballpundit.com. And the over 2 goals are from DraftHound. But the top 10 captains, which have been asked so much today. So yeah, Son is 10th. I've gone for Chris Wood in 9th, Trent in 8th, and then Mbeumo, Mateta, Fernandes, Bowen, Cunha, Palmer, and Salah. That has been my take throughout most of the week. And ultimately, in the next few minutes, I've got one big decision to make. Do I stick with Salah or go against him and hope for an off day and really target a decent return and rank rise through Cole Palmer? That is the big question. But hopefully these graphics have been useful to you. Like the video. Let's get this over 200 and let's see what the poll is saying. Oh my god, it keeps on switching. Palmer's winning, then Salah. Palmer, Salah. But as things stand, Palmer does have 54% of the vote. And it is a very close call here. So that should be very interesting. The last time we had these fixtures take part in Gameweek, was it 14? I captained Palmer against Southampton. He got 8 points and Salah absolutely decimated it. But that doesn't mean it will happen again. Thank you, Provit88. Massively appreciate as always and good luck. Aranya says, get one pair for free. Bowen plus Cunha, Mbeumo and Vissa, Bowen and Vissa, Mbeumo and Joao Pedro, Mbeumo and Minter. And number 6 is Bowen and Mitoma/Minter, bench Hall or Mikalenko. I would bench Lewis Hall. So I've said all stream I'd start Mikalenko because I think Liverpool win quite comfortably. Now, could Hall get an assist? Yes, he could, but I'd still start Mikalenko personally. With the duos, it's going to be Bowen and Cunha for me. They're all good, but the first one is my favourite right now. Yeah, I think Pedro Neto starts. Not a big fan of him in FPL though, especially with goals. Start Wood or Clover? Wood. You can see on the captaincy list I just mentioned a few minutes ago. Start Kirkes or Robinson? Robinson. Dango to Bone for a -4? I'm not sure if it's worth it, especially if it means you bench a Chris Wood or Isak, for example. I definitely wouldn't recommend it in those circumstances, but if you need this player to start, I don't mind the hit for Bowen. It's just, what does that mean for your other players and who do you bench as a result? I would start Mikalenko there over Milos Kirkes. YSA says buy Cunha and start him with Kluivert over, or Dango. I'd start him over Dango. Play 3-4-3 with Wood and Isak, or play 3-5-2 with Kluivert and Bowen. Well, basically I'd start Wood and Isak, so it would be Kluivert on the bench here. Jimenez to Cunha and Rodgers to Bowen. Yeah, good transfers. I like them. Dango or Minter? I'd lean towards Minter right now. For this week at least, it's close. I just think with Vanussen back, that could be problematic for Dango in the long term, and maybe I'm wrong about it. Larkin says start Hall or Mikalenko. That's been covered. Mikalenko. Bench one of Rodgers, Semenyo. Rodgers on the bench. Munoz, Gabriel, Robinson, Kirkes, pick 3. Munoz, Gabriel, and Robinson. I'd bench Kirkes. Start Wood or Kluivert. Once again, Wood. Wood out for Cunha. I wouldn't sell Chris Wood. Josh says, hi Dylan, I have the same midfield and attackers as you, apart from Mateta for Isak. I'm playing Bowen ahead of Kluivert. Yeah, I get that. It's, I'd do the same thing, I think. Wood out for Vissa? No, definitely not. Choose 2 from Mikalenko, Kirkes, Milenkovic. I'd pick Mikalenko and Milenkovic. I'd bench Kirkes. To be honest, I don't see why going against Salah makes sense. Yes, Palmer faces bottom of the table, but he's on terrible form, and Salah has lost neither. Has he blanked against them before? Yeah, exactly. Unbeaten against Newcastle. 10 goals, 7 assists against them in 16 games. And he got 2 goals and 1 assist back in Gameweek 14 against them in that 3-3 thriller, whilst Palmer scored a late consolation goal in a 4-0 win. Was it 5-0 against Southampton? But look, that's only one game, of course. There's a lot more to the captaincy than that. And could you go against Salah this week? Yeah, and I think Palmer is a nice alternative, but yeah, I think I'm going to stick with Salah. As a Liverpool fan, I want to bench Isak for Semenyo, knowing how many times he's returned whilst on my bench. The thing is, though, with Isak, I said this before, no wins against Liverpool, but 3 goals, 1 assist in 5 matches. He scored at Anfield last season. He also, he got a goal and an assist at St James's Park in Gameweek 14 this season. I mean, look, I get it if you want to start Semenyo, but I would go for Isak. So yeah, we are wrapping up. Literally 48 seconds left. Gakpo, Dango and Wood, 2 to start. Chris Wood, and I chance on Gakpo, but it is very risky. He might not start the game. Start Elanga or Semenyo? I would start Semenyo. I feel like people are just trying to be different, or some just hate Salah. I don't know. I mean, I get it. I don't think it's outlandish. We're not like captaining in Cuckoo. I mean, people can do that, by the way. Maybe that ends up being the best captain. But, you know, Palmer has been really consistent since Game Week 7 last season. This is probably his worst spell in FPL, and surely he gets one big return in the next 2 game weeks. Mitoma out for Bowen. I like Mitoma, to be fair, so I'd probably say no. Bench 1, Mitoma, Cliver, Elanga. I'd bench Elanga personally. Watkins to Cunha for a hit? No. I keep Watkins in this case. You can always sell him for free next week. But we are locked in now. Thank you everyone for watching. Yes, I have stuck with Salah captain. What a shock. And by the way, I've still an FPL challenge. What an idiot. So yeah, this is my final team. Sells in goal, Trent, Colwill, Robinson, Salah captain, Mbumo, Palmer, Cliver, Chris Wood, Isak, and Cunha. On my bench, I've got Valdimarson, Semenyo, Mikalenko, and Veltman. I've said this before. I'll probably go for Palmer captain in FPL challenge. And yeah, in FPL, I'm going for Salah. So I should get something my way in terms of points if one of them were to blank, which I don't think will be the case. It could be a case of both of them with massive returns. But yeah, FPL challenge, you saw my team just now. I'll go back to it very shortly. Let's answer a few more questions. We did hit our super chat goal, so this stream will go on for a little bit longer. Thank you to Mitra, Napstars, Reggie, Paolo, and Aranya for the super chats. You're all massively appreciated. And to all these super chatters in general across all the streams, the subscribers and likers. Let's get this over 200 likes before you leave or head out, or before the culmination, or yeah, before this stream reaches its conclusion. Let's put it that way. How do you think Arsenal and Waneri do? He's on my bench and he's done very well away from home. Well, look, Arsenal, I think, do very well when the pressure's off. I mean, I hate to say it, but I think Arsenal tend to struggle when the pressure's really on them. Ultimately, the attack isn't good enough, and I thought this result would come against Forest, not against West Ham. I've gone for a 2-0 Forest win. If Arsenal were to do something, Waneri is the most likely, I think, from the attackers to get an attacking return and to get Arsenal over the line in this match. But yeah, I'm backing Forest to win 2-0, so I'm not really backing them that much here. Start Elanga or Semenyo, Mitoma or Cliver. I prefer Mitoma this week, but not by much. Bench Wood, Isak or Bowen. It would have been Isak here. Why captain Salah over Palmer? I mean, we're talking about Salah, mate. He's blanked once at home this season against Forest. He's got a great record against Newcastle, which I mentioned dozens of times. Palmer's in poor form, but I get why people want to go for him, and it's a great fixture. But I'm not captaining a bum. I'm captaining Salah, one of the best Premier League wingers of all time. Captain Salah or Palmer? Yeah, I've been very consistent on this all stream. My preference is Salah, but I get why people went for Palmer. Let's see if Salah maybe finally blanks and people who go for Palmer end up gaining a lot of rank. Start Milenkovic or Gabriel? I would have gone for Milenkovic, I think, this week. Bench one of Diaz, Gakpo and Mateta. Gakpo because he's the least likely to start, and that could obviously be very poor, or it could go against you. Newcastle more likely to come at Liverpool. Southampton will sit in. Yeah, and also, because they face each other in the Carabao Cup final, I think Newcastle might try something a bit different and maybe go, gung-ho. They're not going to sit in like they did against Arsenal recently, for example. But I think in the Carabao Cup final, they'll have a different approach and different tactics. So, yeah, it's an interesting one, but you make a good point there. The thing is, Salah will probably return, but will he outscore Palmer this week? I mean, I think he will. That's why I captain him, right? Maybe I'm going to be wrong about it, but once again, Salah's got a great record against Newcastle. And let's not forget, Newcastle were very shaky against Forest in the second half of Game Week 26. I mean, they could have easily dropped points from a comfortable lead. FPL made sure not to mess up the deadline this time. Yeah, I mean, makes sense, right, after that fiasco. My FPL challenge team, Jorgensen, Trent, Munoz, Robinson, Salah, captain, Palmer, Bruno, Diaz, Mateta, Visser, Slot. Interesting. I'd recommend a table bonus manager, even in FPL challenge, but I get it. Jorgensen's a good shout. I am looking at one Chelsea defender potentially, maybe Reece James if he starts, so that's something I need to weigh up. Bench Waneri, Cucurella or Raul Jimenez? I would have benched Waneri. Yeah, locked in indeed. Rodgers to Enzo. Enzo is appealing for the next 2 fixtures, but I'm not a huge fan. Yeah, people saying the same thing here. We're locked on time this time. Yep. Locked in and good luck, Dylan. Likewise, good luck, everyone, says Genius Gamer. Bruh, I forgot Cunha on the bench. Oh, dear. I mean, maybe. is a blessing in disguise, but that's not something I want to have. Good luck, no more thing to lose. Almost ranked 500k already. Yeah, time to have fun with it. That's why some people are going for Palmer captain. But then again, it is becoming a trend amongst people on X and YouTube. So that kind of put me off, actually. I'm not going to lie, because it was a consideration to just go for Palmer and hope for the best. Good luck, Dylan. Thanks for the best advice. Thank you, McDonald Freeman. All the best to you. Yes, locked emojis galore. Cylindra says, decided to take a hit to sell Rodgers and Ndai to Bowen and Cunha. Bench Rob Pedro, couldn't take the risk whether he starts or not. And Captain Salah. Yeah, it's kind of typical, right? He just returned big. People now buy him or look to actually start him for once. And then he ends up blanking or being benched. So I get it. JP is a headache. I'd recommend selling him still. I benched Munoz over Trent, Kirkes, Gabriel. Was that bad? I would have started Munoz over Kirkes personally, but you can't have them all. Palmer ×2, says Lager. All the best. Hopefully it goes well for you. Adil says Palmer having his worst run as a Chelsea player ever, and Salah is on his best run ever, and yet people are still looking for reasons to not captain Salah, who's just got a goal and an assist away at the Etihad. Yeah, look, I still get it. You know, I don't think captaining Palmer is outlandish. You are correct about both of them in terms of where they are. Salah's in his best ever run at Liverpool. Palmer is having a shaky spell. But spells come to an end, and this could be the game where Salah blanks, then he returns in the next 5 in a row, including the Carabao Cup final, and Palmer might produce a 20-point haul against Southampton, then he blanks in one of the next 2, like Leicester or Arsenal. Football's unpredictable, right? And things come to an end. You know, it's a game of cycles, but I just think Salah, you need a great reason to go against him. Palmer is maybe one such reason, but I wasn't feeling it myself, and I went for Salah. Aranya says, I went for Palmer captain simply because I'm chasing rank. I get that. I've been second in my mini league for way too long, behind the league leader by some 25 points. That's not a big lead, though. That could easily be surmounted. Yeah, I'm probably just bugging out with English as well. It can be overturned, and yeah, you can overtake him in just a week. 25 points is nothing in FPL, in my opinion. Callum says, will be interesting to see how Chris Wood does against Gabriel and Saliba. Well, look, I don't want to jinx it, even though it means nothing. You know, do Arsenal finish 2nd, 3rd, or 4th? I really don't care. But he doesn't have a great record against Arsenal. I think he will score here, though. I really do. And if that happens, bonus points incoming. H. Buckle says, had it on Salah all week and changed last second to Palmer. We'll see how that turns out. Thank you, Josh. Thanks for your help, Dylan. I now feel good about my team. Well, I'm glad to hear it. Hopefully you feel the same way after the culmination of Gameweek 27. Aranya says, it could backfire, but if I don't take that point on Palmer versus Southampton, then when will I? Well, maybe later in the season, if Salah drops off by then, or Liverpool have won the league by that stage and can rest players. By that stage, maybe we go against them for the captaincy or just bring in differentials. Thoughts on bringing in Mitoma for Gameweek 29 away to Man City? Yeah. The thing is with Mitoma, he was a nice purchase last week against Southampton. I think buying him at that stage, I know City have been terrible away, you know, all season, but I'd back them to beat Brighton there. So it's an interesting one. Start 1, Dango, Wanyeri or Wood, Chris Wood. The deadline has closed though, not like last week, so you can't change it anyway. Yeah, same here, Deal. I think Gakpo could start. That's why when people ask me about Rodgers or Gakpo, I said Gakpo. And also over Dango, I recommended starting the Dutchman. Palmer's blanked in his last 4 games. Salah's blanked 4 times this season. People can't argue against Salah. Yeah. And look, obviously, it is greatness what we're watching in terms of goal contributions. You got to respect it, but I would like to see a bit more variation with the captaincy and more options. In recent months, it does feel like you don't really have one. You might be able to bet against Salah once and come out on top, but to do it consistently will be very difficult. Twisted Parky says, drop Dango, Clover, Mbuma, Isak or Watkins. I would have dropped Dango. Finlay says, I bought in Cunha and Bowen for Watkins and Rodgers. Thoughts? No free hit in 29, all chips left. I like both transfers in. Bowen, I would not be surprised if he blanks against Leicester and people call him a trap or something. I still think he's a good purchase beyond Gameweek 27. But West Ham can struggle against teams they're expected to beat, whilst against the kind of better sides like Arsenal, they can sometimes produce an upset. But yeah, free at 29, fair enough. I think that could be a popular strategy. I might navigate it without the free hit. Yeah, we covered this Howson injury earlier. Based on the tweets I saw, they weren't from reliable sources. If you got a reliable source, then leave it in the live chat and we can discuss it, but I'm not so sure. Back-to-back home hat-tricks for the Egyptians against Newcastle. Nice narrative. Didn't even think about that myself. Yeah. The thing is as well, I also captained Watkins last season when Salah played Newcastle at home. And Watkins got a goal, and I think 8 points on his birthday. Then the following day, Salah just gets 16 plus points against Newcastle. So I've got a bad history of backing against them when he does play that opposition. It'll be typical now for me to stick with Salah, and he ends up blanking. Stuck with Salah captain, hoping for a few scrappy goals from Salah and Palmer goals being poached by Neto. Or just Chelsea not winning and Southampton getting a shock result, but we don't get what we want, do we? This is a fun week where Biggie's captain Palmer ignoring the king. Look, ultimately, this is a game that is outcome driven. When people make analysis in the end and talk about what went right or wrong, people look at the results, and I like to look at the decision-making process. I think both Palmer and Salah are good captaincy options. I've ranked Salah higher all week. I stuck with it. It might be not the right thing to do or the optimal thing based on my rank, so it would have made sense to go a bit more different with it, but it can also go the other way, where you back against Salah, it goes really badly, and you fall down the ranks. FPL challenge this week, yeah, like I mentioned before, assistant manager, Postecoglou, Glasner or Pereira, one of those three. My current manager is Ange Postecoglou. If I don't get points from him, I can jinx him. Either way, I'll leave with something. So yeah, I've gone for Sells, Trent, Wan-Bissaka, Munoz, Salah, Palmer, Bowen, Fernandez, Cunha, Mateta, and Postecoglou. One change I might make is Sells out for Jorgensen. That is one possible move, if not Sanchez, depending on who starts. But yeah, most of it is fairly locked in. I think I might just captain Palmer here. So if I end up being on the wrong side of that debate, I can at least gain something in FPL challenge, but it's not great logic to use when making your FPL challenge team. Bench one of Dangle when Yeri Wood. It's been covered, James, and you can't change it anyway. Better than my original rank team. Well, at least you're doing well in FPL challenge. I wanted to go for Palmer captain to chase my mini league, but didn't have the guts to go against Salah's form. Come on, Salah. I mean, I'll be honest, I've never really cheered any of Salah's goals or assists this season. I might have done so once upon a time a few years ago, but yeah, I can't bring myself to do that now. But from an FPL perspective, yeah, if Palmer blanks or is a bit quiet and Salah outscores him, that is the ideal scenario. I went Pickford, Robinson, Gabriel, Trent, Palmer, Salah captain, Mbumo, Cliver, Isak, Cunha, Watkins. On the bench, Dango, House and Mikalenko. Looks very solid. I think I would have done the same thing as you, to be fair, with your setup. Bench Gabriel instead of Aït-Nouri, Robinson and Trent. Also Pereira as AM. Let's hope things go Wolves' way. Yeah, I could see that happening, and with Gabriel, he is still a great option in FPL, but Arsenal are shaky right now. It's Southampton and Palmer is world class. I mean, that's debatable in my opinion, but yeah, Southampton are the worst team in the league. I get that, but Palmer has been off it. I've said this all along. I don't think captaining Palmer is a bad decision. I've never said that. Some people in the live chat have, and I've kind of, argued against it a little bit, but ultimately, I've gone for Salah. We'll see how it goes. Mr. Parky says, I get it though. People are looking for a way to beat the crowd. We have not been able to move off Salah for 6 months, so I see why people are doing it. Exactly that. The thing is, because of this kind of push towards Palmer, in terms of those around a similar rank, these people around, inside the top 1 million, a lot of people have gravitated towards Palmer now. So it's not the biggest differential we'll ever see, but maybe enough to get a nice rank rise. Palmer and Salah score hat-trick, both captains happy? Nah. How about Palmer blanks? That'd be nice. What would we want from Palmer tonight as Salah captainers? Maybe a goal. Give him a goal, as long as Salah outscores him. Brown says, love seeing that someone went with Salah captain since everyone switched to Palmer at the end. Yeah, look, and maybe knowing my luck and my recent 50-50 calls, it might go really wrong for me, but I've gone for Salah captain, so normally it doesn't go wrong with the Egyptian. Thank you, Punjabi. So we are close to 200 likes. Let's be sure to reach that by the end of the stream. Just went Dango over Gakpo last minute. Good option. If it was me, I would have gone for Gakpo, but Dango's the least risky option, the safer pick. Although if Anderson is knocking on the door as well, he was on the bench in 26. While Arsenal have so many out, I don't want Gabriel, but don't have transfers. Yeah, I sold Gabriel to get Trent in the first place, and ideally I would have had both, but I'm still looking to buy Gabriel, I think, eventually. I mean, there's nothing really to jinx now anymore, but that'd be afterwards. And to be fair, my main priority in my defensive line is Munoz. You're just being kind by saying that Southampton is going to score, right? Well, it's just because Chelsea are quite poor defensively. And I don't know, the way I look at the game, I think it's going to be 3-1. I don't know if there's much logic to it, but I've also seen their records over the years, and I think a 3-1 looks quite likely. As an Arsenal fan, do you feel more frustrated with the ownership or Arteta? With the ownership, yeah. I mean, Arsenal have failed for 20 years, and the one constant has been the Cronkies. They took full control in 2018. You would have argued they turned the corner in the following year when they took full ownership, when they invested a lot of money. And Arteta has spent 700 million, but, you know, in terms of the big six, only Liverpool and City have spent less, and that's because they had better teams to begin with. I think Arteta's done a good job turning Arsenal around. He's got them challenging, and especially 2 years ago, when they led the league for over 200 days, no one expected Arsenal to be there. Then they crumbled, but it was a young team, you kind of got it. The season after, I think there was more expectation, and I think Arsenal had a great transfer window there. They signed Rice, Raya on loan, and that was obviously going to become a permanent, and Jurriën Timber. Kai Havertz was the kind of controversial one, but he ended up having a good season. And going into that campaign, that was like the most confident I ever felt going into a season. Fell short to a great Man City team, I get it. But I think this year Arsenal really had to go to the next step to then get over the line. They didn't do enough in the summer window. It was an underwhelming one. And looking back on it, it was even worse than a lot of us thought. And January is unacceptable. Your best player went down injured on the 21st of December. And then Gabriel Jesus, who was on form at the time, gets an ACL injury in an FA Cup tie in the middle of January. You had a lot of time to get players in and challenge Liverpool at least, because I think the league is winnable. It would have been even now if Arsenal got those players in, but they didn't do it. And once that transfer window closed, I knew that Arsenal, the best they could aspire to in the league is second, which is not good enough. So yeah, I have frustrations with Arteta as well, by the way, and he might be part of it in terms of not signing a striker in January and some of these decisions, but I think the main problem is the ownership, for sure. Newcastle in the last couple of game weeks conceded a lot of goals. Exactly. 3 to Nottingham Forest, despite being 4-1 up. They haven't been in great form. Crazy how City away has gone from the most difficult fixture in FPL to one where players could do very well now. Yeah, especially attacking players, right? You'd still back them to score in most games there. So the Liverpool clean sheet was rather surprising, you could say. But yeah, things change very quickly in football. City have dominated the Premier League for many years now. This is their off-season. Maybe their term is coming to an end, but I think City are more likely to win the Premier League next season than Arsenal, which is crazy to say, but that's the way things are. The goals Newcastle conceded against Forest were 2 scrappy goals from set pieces and a long-range effort. Should expect Newcastle to be more organised this week away to Liverpool. That is true, but they have conceded all types of goals in the last couple of weeks, not just those against Forest. Nice rank, Easy 99, keep on pushing there in FPL Challenge. Do you create your graphics and thumbnails, etc.? Yes. I have got some templates online, but yeah, pretty much most of what you see on the thumbnails, I mean, the thumbnails are all me. Channel logo is actually designed by a friend of mine, a graphic designer. And also like the thing you'll see very soon in terms of my social media platforms, that was also by my friend. So yeah, basically it's called like, what is it, my background for YouTube and Twitter. But yeah, pretty much most of it is what I've created from PowerPoint and Photoshop and stuff like that. Easy99 says, since the players will double points because this is the manager, I pick slot for FPL Challenge. Right, okay, fair enough. Just the Parky puts his predictions, and I'll put them on screen now as well, if I can get it up. So yeah, I'll pause this once we, yeah, there we go. Wait, okay, that's really late. Yeah, and that's the other one. That's from last week. Apologies. So I have to go to this screen. All right, I'm going to pause it. So yeah, these are my predictions for Gameweek 27. And Just the Parky says, Brighton 2, Bournemouth 1. Yeah, I think if there is a winner in that game, I think Brighton are more likely. Palace 1, Villa 1, Wolves 2, Fulham 1, Chelsea 3, Southampton 0, Brentford 2, Everton 2. Man United 1, Ipswich, is that nil? Forest 1, Arsenal 1, Spurs 2, City 3, Liverpool 3, Newcastle 1, and West Ham 2, Leicester 0. I was able to get decent expected goals and assists. That comparison between the two. Interesting. Imagine there's a limit of captaincy of a player. People mentioned this in the last stream about having, like, you can only captain a certain player 5 times in a season. FPL wouldn't do that anyway. Lineups out. I'll cover them very soon. I'll get them actually up now whilst I have my predictions on screen. And feel free to put your predictions as well. Twister Parky has kindly provided his as always, and we have shared a few score lines, but not all of them. So yeah, let's get the show on the road. Brighton and Bournemouth. Let's see if there are any shocks in these lineups. But yeah, Joao Pedro does start. Spoiler alert. I will show you very soon. And let's bring up Bournemouth's as well. So yeah, the house and rumours were absolute BS, by the way. Just to let you know. And let's see. Any other things to note? Maybe? Alright, so yeah, let's get the Palace, Villa, Wolves and Fulham lineups as well. So just give me a second whilst I get all of them up and then I can go through them one by one. Okay. Okay, it shouldn't be long now, I promise. Let's get Crystal Palace. Not surprised, well, there is a player returning there for Palace, but we'll go through that very soon. And finally, Wolves and Fulham. So yeah, they have posted all of them. All right, so we got there in the end. We have all the lineups ready. I keep saying we, I'm not Venom. Yeah, I'm not Venom. All right, let's go to Brighton's first, the home team. So Verbruggen is in goal. Lamptey, Webster, Joao Pedro, Jorginho Rota, Minter, Baleba, Matoma, Gomez, Van Heck, and Estupinian. So the likes of Hinselwood are on the bench. Vifa as well. Welbeck also in the squad. But yeah, Joao Pedro did very well against Bournemouth last time out. He scored the winning goal, actually, I believe. So let's look at Bournemouth's team. Howson is in there despite the ACL injury and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's not true. But Zabani is obviously suspended. Kepa's in goal. Kirkes, Cook, Brooks, Christie, Dango, Adams, Cliver, Hill, and Semenyo. Semenyo's on my bench. We all know what happens there. Crystal Palace, Aston Villa, Henderson, Munoz, Richards, Lacroix, Gay, Mitchell, Wharton, Hughes, Sarr, Eze, and Mateta. On the bench, they've got the likes of Lerma, Nketiah, Klein, Kamada, Turner, Roman Essa, Chilwell, Devaney, and Kapora. Yeah, I probably butchered that. As for Aston Villa, Martinez in goal, Garcia, Konsa, Disasi, or Disasai, I think the French would love me to say. Luca Dean, McGinn, Tielemans, Bogard, Ramsey, Rogers, and Watkins. So Rogers does start. Okay. Yeah, okay. I know throughout the stream I was quite pessimistic about Rogers starting. I saw Emery's comments and I thought, that doesn't sound too good, but it looks like I was fooled there. I think Rogers could do well, I can't lie, against Crystal Palace. So those that have sold him or benched him, I mean, look, I don't think it's a bad decision. Ultimately, he is a sell, but I think he's going to return, actually, in one of the next 2 games. And yeah, I think against Palace, he can get us something, for sure. With Wolves versus Fulham, Jose Sarr in goal, Semedo, Doughty, Bueno, Totti Gomez, Aït-Nouri, Andre, Joao Gomez, Bellegarde, Munetsi, and Cunha. With Fulham, they have gone for Leno, Castagna, Diop, Anderson, Cuenca, Sessegnon, Lukic, Sandenberg, Pereira, Muniz, and Traore. So, what? Robinson's on the bench. Oh, for fuck's sake. Okay, just don't come on, yeah? Thank you, asshole. Ah, great. I was not expecting that, I can't lie. That caught me off guard. So we'll see what people are saying in the live chat. Those are all the lineups out. Robinson is benched. Hooray! So yeah, that person who mentioned selling Robinson recently, yeah, they think they're cooking, of course. So yeah, let's go through a few more. Someone overtook me in my mini league last game week. I've been first in game week 2, only 4 points gap, but I had a 60-point lead just 10 weeks ago before my red arrow streak started. Well, yeah, look, it's not much of a difference. You can still get back to top spot. It's all about game week 38 in the end, but yeah, it goes to show you. You got to be on your game, otherwise people can catch you up. Chelsea fans are protesting right now before the game. About what? I mean, to be fair, yeah, they've been terrible for a few years. The game of Forest versus Arsenal could determine the number second place. I don't think that's really important, to be fair. It's all about first. I was 150 points ahead of him. He was 9th. You can still go ahead of him in the next few weeks. Joao Pedro and Rodgers start. Hope they blank. Same here. Defense starts from your front man. Arsenal under so much pressure with these injuries. I agree. Arsenal's title challenge died in the transfer window. Yeah, that's why I've been so frustrated, and my main frustrations are leveled at the board. So the Cronkies, the ownership, and also the board who are in charge of the decisions. Just no ambition to win. Most fans don't seem happy with the owners. Maybe Premier League teams should be owned by fans, just like in Germany, Spain, or Portugal. But things are changing because they're mimicking the Premier League. Yeah, there are different kind of systems in each country. But yeah, unfortunately, I just don't like the way it is in England. Odegaard went from a loan to an actual purchase as well, and he is now your captain. Well, that's what I mean. Like, Arsenal could have signed loan players in January, and maybe they would have been a perfect fit. Then you keep them. Like, there were opportunities to sign players. I mean, look at Aston Villa. I mean, they're bringing on players like Rashford and, Asensio off the bench to change games. Arsenal have nowhere near that depth. These players would start for Arsenal right now, which is crazy. It's a real shame, and bringing in Sterling in the summer looks like such a poor decision, a panic buy. Well, this is the thing, right? There is this kind of like justification for Arsenal signing no one in January, saying we only want our number 1 targets. What about Sterling in the last day of the summer transfer window? So it's just BS, in my opinion. So yeah, thank you to Stepanki for putting the Brighton lineup, and well, all of them actually, Wolves and Crystal Palace. Yeah, people obviously pointing out Robinson benched. Yeah, it is frustrating as hell, isn't it? Welbeck back on the bench, yes. Ipswich beat United is not surprising when they're supposed to beat them because United is United. Oh yeah, Ipswich can definitely go there and win, but I'd still back Man United to win. I just think Ipswich Town, they've had a few decent results in them, but few and far between, no consistency. Yeah, wait, for real. Silver, your ass. Yeah, people are not happy with Robinson, isn't it? I mean, look, if it wasn't for me possibly navigating 29 without the free hit, I think Robinson to Munoz could be a very simple move for me. But then again, I've got Colwill and Veltman. They're both, bigger priorities to sell. Robinson's a big surprise, though. Chelsea Southampton lineup should be out soon. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm still going to be streaming by that stage, but if I am, then I'll cover it. But yeah, probably not. I would rather have Hinselwood was playing. Yeah, and Veltman, of course, once again, not on the bench, right? Asensio and Rashford benched. Good options off the bench, though. That's what I mean. Chilwell is on the bench. Yeah, Robinson, yeah, he's gone. But yeah, Chilwell's at Crystal Palace, by the way, to Stapaki, if that's what you're saying. Robinson bench, well, not good for you unless he can assist today. Or he doesn't come on, and then I've got Mikalenko off my bench. I mean, it's not terrible, I guess. Yes, non-Robinson owner here. Yeah, not good to rub it in, mate. Raul bench too. I don't know what's happening. Yeah, I mean, they were comprehensively beaten by Palace. Maybe that sparked a few changes, but you would have expected other moves as well. Luckily, I benched Robinson. Fair enough. I benched Isak for Dango this week. I shouldn't hope for anything, but it's hard to not hope and then get disappointed. Yeah, I would have started Isak, but we'll see how it all goes in the next few days. I don't think Robinson's injured. He is on the bench after all. Maybe there's a slight problem. Good for Cunha owners, transferred in him, but have Robinson. Yeah, as long as Robinson doesn't come off the bench for a 1-pointer, I think that's fine. I benched him, didn't want him up against Cunha, says Linus. Thoughts on finishing outside $1 million this season? For me, or what? I don't know who this question is in relation to. I feel like this week going to be a low scoring week, at least for me. Yeah, I mean, that Robinson news isn't great to start things, isn't it? Arsenal choose profit over ambition in January by not signing a striker. Over the last 3 transfer windows, and only one of them was a summer one, to be fair, but 25 million net spend, I think it is. That's just not enough to win a title. And ultimately, I think Arsenal are happy being in the top 4. Music Kiwi says, why did all FPL YouTubers go Palmer captain? The whole week they were all leaning towards Salah. At least you're honest. I'm not sure. I can't speak for other people, right? But I get the logic of going for Palmer in terms of chasing rank and going against Salah because for, as Twister Parky said, for multiple months, almost half a year, we've been on Salah every single week essentially. But yeah, Salah's still first on my captaincy list, Palmer's second. I've stuck with Salah. Great record against Newcastle. I also think the Toon have been very shaky defensively in recent weeks. And although Southampton are the worst team in the league, Chelsea have been off it, and I'm backing them to win. I think Palmer will do pretty well, but it's hard to back against Salah right now. Dylan with Robertson benched, and if he doesn't play at all, Mikalenko will substitute. Yeah, exactly that. You know, in an ideal world, it would be an attacker coming in, and I wouldn't mind Semenyo, but yeah, it's going to be Mikalenko. But I think Robertson comes off the bench for a 1-pointer, so I'm not really too enthused about it. Robinson 1-point punt prediction. Yeah, I think it'll be a 1-pointer. Aranya says, I've been behind the leader of my mini league for 10 plus game weeks now, always between 25-50 points behind. With Bowen and Cunha in and Palmer captain, this game week might just be the one where I finally go up top. Yeah, if it goes your way, and I do wish you the best of luck, it could be a very fruitful week for you. Jorge says, no one is playing 38 games in the season. I guess Robinson had to be benched eventually. Yeah, it's very difficult to expect players to play that much, especially those in European, well, in clubs that play in European competitions. Of course, not the case with Fulham this season, but yeah, it's frustrating nonetheless. Palmer EO will probably be higher than Salah. Effective ownership in Game Week 27. I still think Salah's will be higher. That's my prediction because in terms of casual managers or those that forgot there's a deadline, they'll still have it on Salah. I'm going fancy and captaining Palmer. Well, it's all done, right? But all the best. Well, I hope Cunha scores now to get rid of Robinson clean sheet. Well, Fulham's clean sheet, right? Robinson won't get one unless he's subbed on before 30 minutes, basically. Thoughts on finishing outside 1 million for me? Your tips? Well, you can finish in the top 1 million still. I'm not sure where your rank is right now, but yeah, I think it is a bit different to people asking, how can I finish first in the world or top 1k, top 10k. So here you can afford to be template, you know, be boring with your picks like Salah captain and still find a way to be consistent. Your combination of players might be slightly different to the others, and that's what gets you over the line. But yeah, I think with getting into the top 1 million, I think the best thing to do is pick the captain you think is going to score the most points, irrespective of if you want to go for Palmer just for the sake of it and go against the template. So just keep on doing what you're doing. And I think in this case, you can afford to be more conservative, actually, to finish in the top 1 million. It might sound a bit contradictory, but that's the way I look at it. Veltman injury is really bad luck for you. He would have been a good option this week. Well, more so last week, actually. But then again, after the deadline, because FPL just couldn't lock in, I bought in Mikalenko for Veltman. So I'm actually happy he missed out. But I'm not sure what's up with Veltman, mate, because I actually bought him in back in December when Brighton were about to play Southampton, and he just got a mystery injury out of nowhere. And then all the way again in Game Week 26, the same thing happens against the same opposition. It's very strange. But yeah, Veltman ultimately was a bad transfer from me. I hold my hands up. But the fact he got those injuries was a bit unfortunate, I guess. But maybe not for me last week, actually. Dylan, what's your favourite teams across other major leagues? I've been asked this before, and yeah, I've got maybe slight preferences in these leagues, but I don't support them. So in Spain, it would be Atletico Madrid and Valencia because of the Argentinians they've had. In Serie A, it's probably Napoli or Inter Milan because of the Argentinians once again. With the Bundesliga, Borussia Dortmund for their fan base, I think. I mean, they can't stop singing. I love the atmosphere. And Arsenal faced them a lot of times over the years, so yeah, I do like Dortmund. So yeah, that's probably my answer to that question. Imagine Robinson 1-point punt when Mikalenko could score more points than Robinson. It is what it is, mate. I mean, there's not much I can do. Just missed the deadline. It says Moses. Maybe, hopefully, it's a blessing in disguise for you. FPL Challenge Team has been covered. Just to go through it one more time, this is how it would look. It's not fully locked in. I made one change, which is Jorgensen in for Sells. So whoever starts in goal for Chelsea, I'll likely go for them. My rank is 2.2 million. Yeah, it's definitely attainable for you, I think. FPL Kevy says, hey mate, are you able to explain quickly when the next double Gameweek is and who is effective? Gameweek 32, Crystal Palace and Newcastle. And that's been covered in my recent streams and videos. But in Gameweek 33, we could have yet another one. And those that blank in Gameweek 34, because they reached the FA Cup quarterfinals, they could have their fixture brought forward to Gameweek 33, forming a double. And that's why I've been very bullish on using the assistant manager in Gameweek 32, basically. Badir says, Gameweek 27 already, and I still have all 5 chips. Not sure what I'm doing. Well, you could free hit in 29, bench boost in 33, triple captain 32, wild card around, 31, 34, and assistant manager 35, 36. So that could still work for you. Cunha hat-trick before half-time to make up for Robinson, so Silva won't risk playing him. Yeah, I mean, that would be an ideal scenario from a pretty bad start to the week. Robinson has Cunha as an FPL team. Well, to be fair, it's not his decision. It's Marco Silva, right? Unless he asked to not play, which is very rare. The problem with Robinson benched is that if Fulham are winning, they'll want a defender on to hold it, but even if they are losing, they'll want him on for his attacking output. Exactly. Which is why the only way to kind of make up for it is if Wolves are out of sight, like 2 or 3-0 up and no chance for Fulham. In Turkey, which team do you support? Oof. Well, you might hate me for this because I don't know if you're a Galatasaray or Besiktas fan, but I don't really have a preference if I'm being honest. But I knew a lot of friends who support Fenerbahce, and also the colours they have, so blue and yellow, are similar to my Argentinian team, Rosario Central. So if I had to pick one, it's maybe Fenerbahce, but maybe you're going to be like, you know what, Dylan, unsubscribe, hashtag ratioed, and piss off. You might say that, fair enough, but yeah, that's probably the one I'd say. I'm 2.1 million, went Palmer captain, and now I regret it. Well, it's too early to say that, right? I mean, he could still end up, getting a hat-trick or something. And some teams have a blank game week coming up soon. Yeah, in 29. The 4 teams, so basically the 2 Carabao Cup finalists, Liverpool and Newcastle, and their originally scheduled opponents, so Aston Villa and Crystal Palace, they all blank. So obviously Liverpool and Aston Villa played each other in 25. That fixture's already done. Newcastle Palace, that 29 fixture is now into 32, which is why they double in 32 and blank in Game Week 29. Music Kiwi says 30k now. Hopefully I can end under 10k at the end of the season. I was 2 million in Game Week 14. Great rank rise, and I wish you the best for the rest of the season. That is still possible. If Cunha scores a goal when Robinson's on the bench, fit to play, Marco Silva likely punching the air. Well, yeah, Marco Silva can do one. I mean, he lost to Oliver Glasner last week, which is bad enough, and now he does this. Jorge says, to the people mentioning rank rises, I finished 40k last year, and I was over 1 million in Game Week 25. Yeah, that's why. Even late surges can still be possible. But, yeah, obviously, FPL is becoming more competitive and more template every single year, you could say. Eze and Sarr double points? Possible, but hopefully not. Robinson's on the bench. I don't know why. There's no information yet. Thank you, FPL Kevy. Hopefully it's been useful. Check out my chip strategy guide for more detailed analysis, and also my other podcast like the Assistant Manager live stream a few weeks ago. Nathaniel says, already a bad start for the Robinson owners. Good luck. And TG, I sold him this week. Oh, thank God. Yeah. Nicely done. I think Robinson is expendable now, but I think Colwill and Veltman in particular, they are the biggest priorities for me to sell. Well, I support Arsenal all my life. I don't know exactly when I started supporting them, but I imagine since I was 3 years old. Why? Local team. I mean, they were a great team back then. They won the Premier League title. I remember going to the title parade. Great memories. But yeah, I mean, why? I mean, I don't know. With a football club, you choose one and that's it. You feel like that's the one for you. That's pretty much how it is. Easy99 says, imagine Cunha and Robinson both blank. Could be catastrophic for owners of both. Well, it is what it is, right? You sometimes get this from a certain match where they all blank. You can't have it all. I support Chelsea since 10 years old when I play video games. Fair enough. I mean, a lot of Chelsea fans I know were basically glory hunters. They used to support Arsenal or Tottenham, and then they went to Chelsea. Would you take a free agent Pogba to Arsenal? I'm not sure. I mean, Arsenal should have signed people anyway and not relied on free agents, but it's not going to happen anyway. Would I take him? Probably not. He's been inactive for so long. Unless he still showed a sort of level, then okay. I mean, it's Pogba, but I'm not sure what kind of state he's in. The thing about FPL for me is that if my moves, especially differentials, end up being good for my rank, then fair play. Otherwise, it's just a game. It's not the single most important thing in life. Oh, definitely not. It is a bit of fun though, and ultimately it's a nice way for me anyway to cover football and my opinions on it with data and my own observations. But yeah, you can't let it get to you. With his brace last week, you would expect Asensio to start, but no. Well, maybe off the bench he makes an impact, right? But that's the thing with Aston Villa now. They have squad depth and they can rotate when possible. That's what I wanted Arsenal to do, but let's not talk about that. Oscar says, I have a lot of players that won't play in 29. 3 Liverpool, 1 Newcastle, 1 Villa, and 1 Palace. Have no free hit or wild card and haven't saved up free transfers yet. I have saved transfers now. Makes sense, and that's why everyone's situation is different. You might even want to take a hit to get to 11 players in Gameweek 29, but it's also about the quality of players, not just the quantity. I've got 11 for Gameweek 29 right now, but 2 of them are Colwill and Veltman, which is disgusting. Kenny Sr. says, I swapped Hall for 8 Nuri in the end. I hope it goes well. I would have done the same thing. As good as Hall is, it is Liverpool away. I'm so happy I started Trent, Gabriel, Munoz and Mikalenko, bench Robinson. I would have suggested starting Robinson over Mikalenko, and sometimes you need a bit of luck with these decisions. Is that your challenge team? Why no Spurs players if you pick Ange? Because that's already enough, mate. Son would be the only one I'd consider, or a midfielder. I wouldn't recommend a defender, despite my 1-0 prediction. I mean, yeah, it's just FPL challenge after all, but Postecoglou is a differential enough, and I've got nice coverage and balance with my selections. But yeah, that is my FPL challenge team, and just for those who have tuned in late, this is my final FPL squad. Sells and goal, a back three of Trent, Colwill, and the benched Robinson, unfortunately. Salah captain, Mbumo, Palmer's my vice, and Kluivert, Wood, Isak, and my new transfer Matheus Cunha, replacing the injured and die. I've got a bench of Valdimarsson, Semenyo, Mikalenko, and Veltman. So if Semenyo hauls, you know exactly who to blame. If you haven't already, smash the like button, subscribe for new. Thank you to those that have done so already, and also hit that notification bell so you never miss a single upload or live stream. You can also follow me on various social media platforms like X, Instagram, and Blue Sky by typing FPL Dylan or Dylan RCM. There's also my FPL League, the Discord server, Spotify, and my Patreon, which is patreon.com/Dylan RCM. So yeah, we did hit over 200 likes. Thank you very much for that. Let's end the poll. Palmer did win it with 56%, by the way. Not many times we'll see Salah lose any sort of vote, particularly with the captaincy. I also know football because of video games. Yeah, I haven't bought FIFA this year for the first time in many years. I used to like the FIFA games back in the day, and even PES as well, actually. Our challenge teams are the same except for the goalkeeper, AM, and Mateta. Yeah, bit of variation, I think, with FPL Challenge, but the last couple of weeks have been a bit stale, you could say, because it's all about promoting the AM chip. Yeah, thank you, Kenny, and everyone else who have liked. They will get double points, says Joe. Oh, right, okay, maybe I didn't read it, to be fair. I won't lie to you. I'll go back to it. Thoughts on Robinson to Munoz for Ipswich home for free, and then just filled 10 players in Gameweek 29. Yeah, I've said something similar. I'm looking to navigate blank Gameweek 29 without the free hit. But Munoz will come in for me eventually, either in 28 or 30, so I'm on board with that. I'd still recommend having 11 players in 29 of good quality if possible. So that's something else to bear in mind. Good luck, Punjabi and everyone else. Let's go quickly back to FPL Challenge before I wrap up and see if I can fix any potential issues. So yeah, players from the assistant manager... players from the assistant manager's club earn double points, yeah. So in that case, it would make sense for me to go for Oliver Glasner. Because with Spurs, I mean, do I go for Son and all these players? Maybe. Maybe. But I think I might just go for Glasner here. Or Vitor Pereira. This probably makes the most sense for me. Yeah. Considering the challenge this week, pick a manager from a team that you kind of invested heavily on this week with FPL Challenge. So yeah, Glasner, Munoz and Mateta looks fairly sound. But Postecoglou for me is a really good option as the AM or as system manager this week, and also for 28 with table bonus on offer against Man City and Bournemouth. So one to look at. This might be my final team, but of course, depending on lineups, there could be some changes, of course. And that's how things could pretty much settle themselves. If Jorgensen starts, he'll be in there. If not, I might change it. Yes, mate. So yeah, thank you, Joe. I actually wasn't aware. I just assumed they had the same exact thing from the last couple. I backed Palace and gone full out Palace. Yeah, maybe Henderson in goal could be a consideration for me. That could be enough. I mean, Eze in the midfield, possibility. SM Moy says Bowen, Cliver, or Mitoma. Who is a better short-term free game weeks? Bowen. I picked slot in assistant manager with Salah, Trent and Diaz. Yeah, I get what you said earlier. I mean, that's fair enough. Thanks, Dylan, as always, and all the best to everyone. Likewise, Ashwin, always good to see you. Yeah, Spurs, I think, are a good pick this week. I'm going for a 1-0 win for them. Whilst in the Palace game, I think it'll be higher scoring. But I just think Palace have better assets, actually. And I'll be looking to bring them in after blank Gameweek 29. But thank you everyone for tuning in. It has been a pleasure. The plan is to do a reaction stream tomorrow for FPL and to also record a first draft for UCL Fantasy ahead of Matchday 11 with unlimited transfers. A best team for the round of 16 will be made as well. My team selection and another deadline stream next Tuesday. And we've got a little bit of a break in FPL from this deadline to the next, which will be not this Saturday, but the one after. But either way, all of the content you need for FPL and UCL Fantasy will be covered on this channel. Take care, enjoy the football. I'll see you very soon for more of that content. And I hope you do very well in the next few days. Take care.